Chapter 461, Grant the following. During the Ming dynasty, the Wudang sect was held in high esteem. Emperor Yongle mobilized 300,000 troops and civilians to construct a Taoist palace complex that stretched over 140 li, and Emperor Jiajing even erected the Xuanyu seal of peace archway. This was not merely a title but also signified that the spirit refiners of the Wudang sect could freely gather believers and even enjoy the destiny's will of the dynasty. Unfortunately, with the change of dynasties overnight, those days of glory disappeared, and the once illustrious Wudang sect continued to decline. At this moment, Zhang Yunzhi was reviewing a pile of intelligence reports, telegrams, account books, etc., a daily task for him. Since taking over as sect leader, he had spared no effort, working tirelessly and focusing solely on the sect's construction. Alas, to little avail, as the Wudang sect showed no signs of revitalization and barely managed to halt its decline. He was also puzzled, as under his management, the entire sect was well organized and striving hard, but for some inexplicable reason, things just weren't going smoothly. It's lost its destiny. However, it should be time for a turn of fortune. A touch of levity appeared on Zhang Yunzhi's usually stern face. Heaven doesn't seal off all paths, with the Wudang sect now close to Lord Lu, a rapid rise seemed within reach. Zhang Yunzhi focused on compiling the recent intelligence related to Lu Yao, with faint words such as constitutional government and parliament on the documents. Looking at these items, Zhang Yunzhi scoffed with disdain, all talk of benevolence and morality, but with a stomach full of great treachery. To think that they would actually instigate public opinion and carry out a moral hijacking. At that moment, Bai Lu entered and bowed, saying, "Master, Lord Lu bids farewell, he is about to leave." Zhang Yunzhi nodded slightly, "It looks like he's returning to the imperial city. It's uncertain how Lord Lu will handle things." He picked up several telegrams from the table and stood up, saying, "Bai Lu, summon the elders and true disciples of our sect. Come with me to bid farewell to Lord Lu." Bai Lu bowed and went to deliver the message, while internally acknowledging that the Wudang sect would undoubtedly stand firmly with Lu Yao. Meanwhile, Lu Yao's family had already packed their bags, preparing to return to the imperial city. The luggage was minimal as most of their gains were stored within the space-time bubble, and the various magical treasures and ice jade accessories were already worn by the ladies. Liao Qi was holding several newspapers, righteously indignant as he said. As soon as Lord Zhou hinted at his support for your ascension, newspapers nationwide immediately began propagating opposition to the imperial system, support for constitutional government, clearly a deliberate target against you. Recently, well-known figures from various camps had been actively expressing their opinions in newspapers, pinning the blame for the nation's long-standing weakness and humiliation on the Shun dynasty's political system. The imperial system. The nationwide publication Current Affairs newspaper stated. The reason the great powers are rich and strong, and why our great Shun is poor and weak, all hinges on whether we establish a constitution. All the major countries except for our Shun dynasty still follow the outdated autocratic monarchy. This is also why the major powers consider us a semi-civilized nation, thus treating us unequally. Once we adopt constitutional governance, those who look down on us will surely begin to respect us, shifting their policy from aggression to peaceful international relations. Reading the article brought a smile to Lu Yao's face. Who wrote this? To think that the great powers invade because of politics. Li Pei muttered from the side, this is a newspaper controlled by Lu Kunyi, Governor-General of Liangzhang. These regional governors would certainly prefer autonomous rule, they would never want you, Lord Lu, to become emperor. So that's how it is, Pai Pei knows a lot, Lu Yao said as he cheekily tried to embrace his wife. Li Pei turned her head away, ignoring him. Stabbed in the back by the two people closest to her, the royal lady felt both aggrieved and jealous. Lu Yao gently caressed her and telepathically conveyed, "This is all my fault. Tonight, I'll serve you alone and specifically apologize to you." Li Pei twisted away, retorting, "Who wants you to serve them?" But the thought of her husband's bedroom antics made her a bit restless, especially since it had been a week since their last encounter. As the two were playfully bickering, Zhang Yunzhi suddenly arrived with Zhou He, Bai Lu, and other core members of the Wudang sect. "I'm grateful for the sect leader's hospitality. It is time for us to say goodbye after these few days of disturbance," said Lu Yao. No, it's an honor for our Wudang sect that Lord Lu could visit. Tianzhao Peak is always available for you, replied Zhang Yunzhi. After a brief courtesy, Zhang Yunzhi extracted a few telegrams and said straightforwardly. Lord Lu, your journey to the imperial city is likely to be anything but peaceful. There are some who cannot bear to see your success and, lacking the courage to confront you directly, resort to using all sorts of underhanded techniques. Now, across the entire region north and south of the Great River, there's a sweeping movement to promote constitutionalism, claiming that this is the only way to save the Shun dynasty. The momentum is enormous and the propaganda is relentless, to the point where even the common folk firmly believe it. Taking a look at the telegram, it detailed the attitudes of the regional governors toward the matter, and as expected, none supported it, rather, they were all stirring up the push for constitutionalism, both overtly and covertly. Liu Yao chuckled at this, as he actually had no intentions of becoming emperor, yet these people, measuring others by their own yardstick, were desperately engaging in petty schemes. He looked up at Zhang Yunchu and suddenly asked, "Sect leader Zhang, what kind of image do I have in the eyes of the world?" Upon hearing this, Zhang Yunchu's first instinct was to offer flattery. But when he thought of Liu Yao's deeds since he started donating grain to save those affected by disaster, killing Izuma warriors, dismantling the Sacred Heart Institute, donating tens of thousands of taels of silver, giving rare life creation pills to Zhou, and most of all, risking his life to stand against the coalition forces of the great powers. Those were just the things that came to mind at once, there were many minor and unknown matters as well. In this moment, not only the Wudang disciples who had come with Zhang Yunchi but also a few young women felt that Liu Yao's past actions qualified him as a saint sent from heaven. However, the young ladies soon sneered to themselves, feeling that their own charming and slightly roguish master didn't quite fit the bill. Zhang Yunchu exchanged a glance with Zhou He and then, with heartfelt admiration, said, "You combat tyranny and bring peace to the common people, your character is noble, and your heart is filled with benevolence and righteousness." Liu Yao immediately laughed and said, "Sect leader, you flatter me. But it is perhaps for this very reason that outsiders think of me as a kind-hearted person concerned about reputation, and this time, many will likely be taken by surprise." Upon hearing this, Zhang Yunchi quickly said, "In that case, our Wudang sect is willing to follow Lord Lu and be at your disposal." "Your kindness is much appreciated, sect leader Zhang, thank you," Liu Yao responded. Liu Yao was somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected Zhang Yunchi to pledge allegiance so decisively in front of all his disciples, and so he said, "I am grateful for the hospitality of the Wudang sect, and I have some modest gifts to offer in return." As soon as these words were spoken, Liao Qi summoned a few familiar Wudang disciples to the courtyard, and in a short while, they brought out 20 sets of battle armor and 5 mechas. "Is this Western knight armor?" "Indeed, it is armor. But it's even more exquisitely crafted and looks very sturdy upon first glance. Which country's standard issue is this?" The armor worn by knights of the great powers had been reported in the newspapers after battles, and many people present were familiar with it. Liu Yao then presented Zhang Yunchi with 2 large bottles containing a total of 100 complete tonic pills. "This pill is best taken by those in the marrow cleansing realm." Zhang Yunchi had seen this item at Zhou He's before and knew of its value. He quickly expressed his gratitude, "Thank you for your generous gift, Lord Lu." But just as he accepted the elixirs, he saw Liu Yao gesturing, and 81 flying needles flew out in perfect order. Before Zhang Yunchi could react, one of the elders instinctively exclaimed in surprise, "This is the Golden Lotus Sect's magical treasure, the Nirvana Unity Needle. Could it be that Lord Lu is bestowing this item upon us?" Amidst the excited and anxious gazes of the crowd, Liu Yao indeed said, "Artifacts are neither good nor evil, it all depends on the heart of the user. I hope the Wudang sect will use this magical treasure for righteous purposes." Zhang Yunchu accepted it with a grave expression, vowing solemnly, "Rest assured, my lord, I will re-sanctify it and use it wisely." Liu Yao smiled and bowed to everyone, "Then we shall take our leave now. We hope to meet again in the future." The members of the Wudang sect bowed in unison and respectfully saw him off. "We bid farewell to Lord Lu." Next, 3 spiritual sparrowhawks spread their wings and soared into the sky. The members of the Wudang sect held back their excitement and watched Liu Yao leave before gathering around the sect leader, eager to witness the presented items for themselves. Liao Qi looked back once and then snuggled contentedly into Liu Yao's embrace, asking, "Why don't you sanctify the Empress Dowager's anklet and that teleporting knife? If you don't have time, you can ask sect leader Zhang to do it." Liu Yao replied, "It was made by that little rascal He Ren, and it's best not to take out anything made by him, to avoid any hidden tricks." He especially remembered Ying Zheng saying that the little rascal He Ren, also known as Sufu, seemed to be alive today through possession. His items would best remain in the space-time bubble for now, I will deal with them when my realm is higher in the future. Chapter 462, Return to Beijing. Returning home this time, Yu Yanmei had intended to ride with Li Pei as an opportunity to improve their relationship. However, Li Pei ignored her and instead came to Liao Ye's side, saying, "I'll ride with the Liao sister." So the group ended up with Yu Yanmei riding Ping'an alone, Li Pei and Liao Ye on Ji Xiang, and Liu Yao hugging the delicate Liao Qi. Over the past half-month, the three spiritual sparrowhawks hadn't grown much but had visibly gained weight, pampered by a professional team of chefs arranged by the Wudang sect. Plus, they hadn't skimped on the golden stem immortal brew, having saved up quite some fat. At that moment, with his hand sneaking upwards and not behaving, Li Pei hugged Liao Ye's waist, laughed, and said as he fondled, "The Liao sister is indeed a beauty, I should have ridden with you long ago." Liao Ye's reaction was obviously more than a beat slow, it took a few seconds before she let out a surprised cry, reached back, and pinched Li Pei's leg, "Grab your own. Yours are more fun." Li Pei placed his hand on Liao Ye's smooth and tender nape, whispering, "Such a slow reaction, are you practicing your cultivation? Diligence leads to mastery, sloth leads to ruin, of course I must strive at all times," Liao Ye responded matter-of-factly. Li Pei spoke seriously, not even sparing such short moments. "I've been slacking off lately, thanks for the reminder." That, Liao Ye turned her head slightly, asking softly, "What's going on with you guys? What happened?" The awkwardness between the three was obvious to anyone. With no outsiders around, Li Pei sighed and muttered, "Liu Yao slept with my master." "Ah!" Liao Ye cried out in shock, the spooked Ping'an beneath her also shivered and glanced over. How could this happen? Martial artists may be open-minded, but they have a unique set of moral guidelines, and this was not a glorious affair. Liao Ye spat, "Liu Yao, that beast. To think he tricked Grandmaster Yu like that." But as much as she cursed, her heart wasn't really that angry. Liao Ye had always liked Yu Yanmei, to the point of admiration, she didn't feel too repulsed at the moment. She stole a glance at Li Pei and whispered, "So you're angry because of this? What are you going to do next?" "What else can I do, just accept it. I can't bear to part with either of them, and thinking it through, it's good that no outsider benefited." Li Pei reached around from behind and kneaded Liao Ye fiercely, as if venting his frustration. "But I also can't let Liu Yao off so easily. I'll spank him, 1 month, no, half a month of not sharing a room with him." At this moment, strictly speaking, Yu Yanmei was not alone, she had the lake sword with her. With true qi surging like rivers without leaks, Fran had enjoyed it once and since then had grown very close to Yu Yanmei. Now, puzzled, she asked, "Why the resentment? Isn't it normal for the strong to have many women?" Yu Yanmei, with her head lowered, whispered, "It's different, I'm Li Pei's master. I think you two are very suitable, there couldn't be a more perfect union," Fran said straightforwardly. "And your soul can't lie, you enjoy being with him, and you're happy," she added. "I wronged Pei," Yu Yanmei said in a low voice, then fell silent. Instead, Fran went on to speak a lot about ancient principles, comforting and advising Yu Yanmei. "The character for destiny is indeed wonderful, spanning 2,000 years, the two found an extraordinary connection. Mount Wudang was less than 1,000 kilometers from Imperial City, and the spiritual sparrowhawk arrived in just 1 hour. For them, this amount of exercise could only be considered a warm-up. By the time Liu Yao returned to Jingyi Garden, it was lunchtime. He composed a letter of introduction to Prefectural Governor Zhou, planning to visit him early the next morning. However, unexpectedly, in the afternoon, Prefectural Governor Zhou himself paid a visit, accompanied by the commander of the Imperial Guards, Dong Fuxiang, and the young girl Sua Area. During the time the Liu family was away, the young girl had been following Prefectural Governor Zhou, learning and cultivating, and she appeared especially spirited at this moment. "Uncle Master, you're back." Liu Yao ruffled her little head and said, "Not bad, your cultivation has improved again." He then addressed Prefectural Governor Zhou, "How could I trouble you to come all the way here yourself? A leaderless mass ultimately achieves nothing. There are matters that are better settled sooner rather than later." As everyone took their seats, Prefectural Governor Zhou accepted the tea brought by Liao Qi and went straight to the point. "I'm sure you're aware of my intentions. This will surely allow us to stabilize the realm with the least cost and spare billions from suffering. Now, with the greatest martial power at his disposal, there were few forces that could withstand just a few of the women alone. Dong Fuxiang standing beside him also saluted with folded fists. The imperial guards follow young Master Lu's lead alone. The two had known each other for some time, and the term young master showed a closer relationship. Thank you for your generous affection, Prefectural Governor Zhou. Liu Yao said solemnly with a fist salute, and then continued. I too do not wish to see the great land so depressed and fragmented, and I will surely set it in order. But it may not be in the way you envision. Prefectural Governor Zhou let out a long sigh. As long as we can quickly stabilize the world, it makes no difference whether it's constitutional or republican. My days are numbered, and in the end, it will be up to you. You're free to decide on this matter. Rest assured, I dare not promise too much, but unity and peaceful occupation are certain. Prefectural Governor Zhou nodded in reassurance, fully trusting this young man before him. He was even firmly convinced. Whenever divine land faced moments of life and death, a hero would always emerge, and Liu Yao must be the chosen one. Then, Liu Yao changed the subject. I heard some people have been quite active. Dong Fuxiang knew the details very well and quickly said. It's nothing more than a few regional governors, along with great grandmasters Zhang and Yuan expressing their opinions. Lately, they've been promoting the Western constitutional system, wanting to establish a parliament and hold elections. As Liu Yao currently had the upper hand in martial strength, a group of people thought of using softer tactics since the hard approach wouldn't work. They sought to stir up a constitutional frenzy nationwide, implement an electoral system, and impose layers of restraints on Liu Yao, preventing him from defying the world by wielding his martial power recklessly. If it's a matter of who can shout louder, the voices of this group combined would undoubtedly be louder, said Liu Yao. Has constitutionalism been universally accepted throughout the country now? Dong Xixiang spoke indignantly. Indeed, even the lowest street hawkers and porters are discussing the merits of constitutionalism. But these advocates of constitutionalism are merely seeking personal gain. Liu Yao scoffed, I have no interest in playing along with their foolish antics. He said to Dong Fuxiang, General Dong, draft a list for me with the attitudes and actions regarding this matter from all the governors and prefectural governors. Excitement flashed across Dong Fuxiang's face as he hastily agreed, I will prepare it immediately and bring it over. Prefectural Governor Zhou looked as if he wanted to say something, but Liu Yao spoke in a timely manner, Don't worry, I won't provoke a large-scale civil war. Prefectural Governor Zhou nodded, employing both benevolence and authority is the best strategy. Go ahead and do as you see fit, and I can also lend a hand if needed. Liu Yao smiled calmly, if you could just oversee the imperial city, I'll handle all other matters. Chapter 463, Arrive at Imperial City within 3 days. Imperial Guard's Southern Great Camp. The solid ground was filled with stone rollers and stone locks that ordinary people couldn't move even if they put their backs into it, along with wooden stakes thicker than a man. This place was exclusively for officers above the organ refining realm to train. Bei Hegali's 3 heroes' eldest brother, Zhu Bineng, was drenched in sweat as he wielded a 500 jin heavy stone roller. After receiving enlightenment from Liu Yao, he deeply felt the shallowness of his foundations as he had started his journey midway. Thus, he joined the Imperial Guards to gain experience and cultivate through military life. A few colleagues occasionally glanced at him with eyes full of envy, at the same time amazed by Lord Lu's miraculous methods. He had actually pulled someone from bone tempering straight into the marrow cleansing realm without hurriedly fostering growth. In the past few days, Zhu Bineng had been practicing relentlessly, and everyone could see his progress, especially during sparring, where the improvement was clearly felt. Many stuck in the organ refining realm, as well as those with family members who lacked talent, were now filled with even greater envy. But what they coveted the most was Zhu Bineng's situation. He had actually caught Lord Lu's attention, establishing a connection, and was destined to soar to great heights. After about half an hour, elder brother Zhu's cultivation session came to an end. He put down the stone roller and went over to his 2 younger brothers, who were also cultivating, to give them guidance. Don't slack off, pick up the pace. Stand straight. Integrate the strength of your whole body. After the drilling, it only took a moment for the 2 of them to collapse on the ground like dead dogs. After catching their breath for a while, the 3 brothers sat side by side to rest. The second brother, Zhu Benning, and the third brother, Zhu Benjiang, looked at their eldest brother's formidable marrow-cleansing realm body with envy and jealousy that nearly tore them apart. They deeply regretted why they hadn't had the courage to step forward at the time, missing out on such a tremendous opportunity. Fortunately, they hadn't completely missed out. The third brother's eyes twinkled as he broached the subject. Elder brother, do you think Lord Lu will ascend the throne and become emperor this time? The second brother also said excitedly, if Lord Lu becomes the emperor, doesn't that mean elder brother's future is boundless? Zhu Beneng glared at them and said sternly, put away those thoughts and focus on your cultivation. But the two brothers were far from in the mood to cultivate, and they both started bombarding their elder brother with questions. Recently, there's been widespread propaganda about constitutionalism. Is it something those governors and military inspectors have stirred up? Will Lord Lu become the emperor or the prime minister? Elder brother, you're an officer who knows more, tell us about it. Zhu Beneng sighed and said, all right, I'll tell you about it. Right now, Lord Lu is the strongest and has gained the support of Prime Minister left. That's why some people came up with the idea of constitutionalism, wanting to hold elections to hinder his ascent. The second and third brothers immediately became anxious. Is there a way to deal with this? Are we going to war? Zhu Beneng glanced at the drill field, bustling with more people than usual, and said, there must be a way. These past few days, even when officers are off duty, they're still on time for roll call every day. In these ranks, some are grateful for Lord Lu's kindness, some respect him as a person, and others hope to gain merits following him. They're all keyed up. However, it seems that Lord Lu himself doesn't seem to be in a hurry. After listening for a while, the second brother, Zhu Beneng, suddenly said, actually, it doesn't matter how it turns out, as long as Lord Lu is in power. Look at how peaceful the area around Jingzhen is these days, it's no worse than Jiangnan. Just a few days ago, our family sent a letter saying it was a bountiful year. Yes, we don't ask for a sage or a wise ruler, only for peace in the world. Zhu Beneng softly echoed. Lord Lu had always detested the underworld factions, especially those involved in opium and human trafficking. After a stern crackdown from top to bottom, the Jingzhen area had indeed become tranquil and prosperous, where people could enjoy peace and happiness. Seeing they had rested enough, the three brothers were about to continue their cultivation when suddenly a commotion arose from afar. Upon closer inspection, they saw a group of people approaching. The person in the lead was familiar, he was Grandmaster Fu Fangsheng. Being close to Lord Lu, he was surely one of their own. But the rest were somewhat unfamiliar. They all wore blue military uniforms with bright yellow stripes of varying widths on their sleeves, indicating different military ranks. Is this the Zhenhai fleet? What are they doing here? Just as Zhu Beneng was puzzled, a few well-informed officers nearby had already provided the answer. The people of the Zhenhai fleet mostly come from the Fuzhou Ship Administration College. This academy was personally established by Prime Minister left, so naturally, they stand with us now. So very good, suddenly we have a strong reinforcement. But wouldn't they be more useful staying on the ships? What ships are left? Warships are just money burners, and the imperial court has never allocated funds for repairs. There are hardly a few that can sail on the seas anymore. The people present were all insiders, and a few officers talking in the distance did so in loud voices, without any attempt to conceal their conversation. The three brothers heard everything clearly and immediately understood the situation. Everyone is gathering, it looks like something big is going to happen. No sooner had Zhu Beneng finished speaking than he heard a series of urgent drum beats, and Grandmaster Dong Fuxiang's personal guards arrived. All officers above the organ refining realm must assemble at the commander's tent immediately. Military orders are absolute, and everyone hurried to the gathering. By the time Zhu Beneng arrived, he noticed many things covered with canvas in the area, unknown what they were. And it wasn't only the high-ranking officials of the Imperial Guards who were present, but Fu Fangsheng with his Yinghe Society members, as well as those from the Zhenhai Naval Force, were there as well. As soon as everyone had arrived, Commander Dong Fuxiang didn't waste any time and shouted loudly. There's news you all must know. Lord Lu has issued a final ultimatum, ordering all provincial governors of the highest rank, as well as powers guarded by grandmasters, to come to the imperial city within 3 days to discuss the future of the nation. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone showed signs of excitement. This was clearly an ultimatum. Issued in such a domineering way, it made people remark. It was indeed Lord Lu's style. Dong Fuxiang paused for a moment to let everyone digest his words, then continued to shout. Now comes a time of many troubles. We're all people Lord Lu carries in his pocket, so I'll keep it brief. Today, Lord Lu bestows battle armor, and everyone should take one set according to their cultivation. With that, he waved his hand, and the guards moved forward to unveil the canvas in the center of the area. Countless pieces of battle armor and mechas, shimmering with metallic cold light, appeared before everyone's eyes. These steel creations had both the fierceness of killing machines and the ingenious craftsmanship of fine work, possessing a unique aesthetic of violent beauty that clearly was not ordinary. Being martial artists, those present were extremely interested and hurriedly came forward to fiddle with them. The wearing and operation are very simple, everyone get familiar with it quickly, as I believe it will soon come in handy. We obey the command. The crowd was jubilant and itching for battle. With grace, authority, and profit combined, the morale was incredibly high. Dong Fuxiang was accustomed to this, and even he wanted to hear the resounding roar of the Golden Dragon once more, hoping for a breakthrough. There were telegraphs and telephones. Lu Yao's summoning order spread instantly across north and south, reaching the hands of various important figures. The reactions of these individuals varied, and some gritted their teeth and said, "What domineering tactics! This is clearly an imitation of the alliance meetings of the dukes in the spring and autumn period. If anyone dares not to go, that person named Lu will certainly find an excuse to attack their doorstep. So overbearing and unreasonable, isn't he afraid of the world's censure? This person named Lu wants to ban opium. Well, I just won't go. Let him come and exterminate my entire family if he dares." It wasn't only the summoning order that spread throughout north and south, but also various news pieces in the newspapers. One widely accepted piece of news was that once Lord Lu took power, he would definitely ban opium and human trafficking. And these are the most lucrative industries. Impeding someone's livelihood is worse than killing someone's parents. Countless people regarded Lu Yao as a thorn in their side. Having observed Lu Yao's past actions, numerous people were convinced that he was not on the same path as them. In the midst of this uproar, some people took it more lightly. As soon as Grandmaster Zhang Wenda heard the news, he sighed, preparing to set off. His close aide, Zhao Fengchong, reminded him, "Elder Zhang, a wise man does not stand under a crumbling wall. If this person named Lu harbors ill intentions." "It's all right," Zhang Wenda said, stroking his beard. "A visitor is a guest, there won't be danger in going. If we ignore this summons and do not attend, it would instead invite disaster." Zhao Fengchong frowned deeply, "This person doesn't play by conventional rules." "Elder Zhang, are you confident about constitutionalism? I've met him once. It's difficult to say what he's capable of. Just watch and adapt accordingly." Having personally witnessed Grandmaster Zheng's sudden demise in the underground palace, Zhang Wenda had completely abandoned any thoughts of direct confrontation. Chapter 464, Farce. Outside was bustling, but Lu Yao remained serenely at home practicing his cultivation, accompanied by a beautiful master for sparring. At this moment, he was standing in a fiery red maple forest, opening a metal canister. This silver composite container, as big as a motorcycle helmet, contained many white powders. None other than plutonium-239 snatched from the Star Alliance National Army Laboratory. Lu Yao picked a bit with his pinky finger and inhaled sharply, his body shuddered as he exclaimed, "That's potent. Truly worthy to be weapon-grade nuclear material." He had completely mastered one aperture point and, seeing a part understood the whole, the doors to the no-leaks realm had opened for him. Therefore, he could now afford to use cheats and speed up without worrying about an unstable foundation. With the intense radiation, Lu Yao's bodily functions surged, almost increasing tenfold in an instant, and the swoosh-swoosh sound of blood flushing through his veins echoed in the maple forest. Compared to my senior sister's orchid fragrance, although nuclear radiation is stronger, it's too violent and not as gentle as the orchid fragrance, he mused. Not even Yu Yanmei would dare to inhale plutonium-239 directly as Lu Yao did, relying on his robust spirit refining stage to do so boldly. He could precisely control every muscle, every blood vessel, and every strand of true qi, maintaining perfect internal balance and neutralizing the surge in bodily functions caused by plutonium-239. Next, it was time for aperture points training. This time, however, Yu Yanmei would not let Lu Yao do it alone, insisting on supervising him. At this moment, she stretched out her slender hand and placed it on the back of Lu Yao's neck, and after carefully sensing, said, "Train the Dazui point next. It's a crucial point on the governor vessel and also the meeting point for the foot and hand triple yang meridians." Mastering this spot will double the efficiency of your future cultivation efforts. With the beautiful master's words, Liu Yao naturally complied. Turning around and bowing her head, Yu Yanmei revealed her snowy, smooth neck. The Dazui point was located at the highest point of the bulge on the back of the neck. Liu Yao touched it and immediately understood how to train with her as the perfect reference. The rest was easy, riding the high of the plutonium-239 and under the blessing of the spirit refining stage. It took only half an hour to successfully bring the Dazui point under control, gaining the force of the aperture point with each opening and closing. With the Tenzong point already under control as well, Liu Yao now possessed two vital nodes, one in front and one behind. Now, controlling the force of the aperture points at these two spots simultaneously, Liu Yao instantly felt his true qi increase by 30%. Just 2 points, and such a good effect! He exclaimed in surprise, also feeling a profound joy emanating from the depths of his soul, an innate exhilaration from bodily evolution. Yu Yanmei reached out her hand again, and after sensing with her true qi, suggested. Take advantage of your good condition and let's continue. Next up are the Yongchuan point and the stomach 36A cup ointment. Seeing the locations of the aperture points, Liu Yao understood Yu Yanmei's intention. It was to form a large circulation within his body first, and then expand the points to cover the whole body. After speaking, Yu Yanmei remembered where the Yongchuan point was and her face turned slightly red. But she thought about it, they had been more intimate than this, so what was there to see in a foot? So, she boldly took off her shoes and gently removed her socks, revealing a pair of snow-white soles. These feet were delicate and plump, Liu Yao found them very squishy and extremely pleasant to hold, and he couldn't help but play with them a bit. Yu Yanmei gave him a glare and said in a cold voice, "Focus on your cultivation." Liu Yao chuckled and withdrew his hand, "Next time I'll play with them to my heart's content." Yu Yanmei, unaccustomed to such experiences, couldn't fend off the teasing of an old hand and retorted with a blush. "Little rascal, focus. This is serious business." Liu Yao stopped teasing her and, holding the beautiful feet, took the same amount of time to control the Yongchuan point. Next, he touched her slender, tight calves and took control of the stomach 36A cup ointment. Just as he was about to proceed to the next step, Yu Yanmei, who had been quietly observing, suddenly said, "You're very proficient now, and there's no risk of deviating. In that case, call over a few young girls to watch and learn how to train their apertures." It was indeed a rare opportunity, and Liu Yao promptly used his mind resonance item to call others. While waiting for the girls to arrive, he casually asked, "Did you make up with Li Pei?" Yu Yanmei looked pained and shook her head. "Don't worry, it will be settled in a few days," Liu Yao said confidently, "it was all my fault, and I will compensate her." Compensate with what? Li Pei and the Liao family sisters had already run over. Liaoya and Liao Qi looked at Liu Yao, then at Yu Yanmei, with curious expressions. Yu Yanmei's face couldn't hold the strain, but fortunately, Liu Yao had thick skin and promptly eased the awkwardness. "Grandmaster Yu specifically asked me to call you here to observe the process of training the apertures, so watch carefully." Under the gaze of several pairs of beautiful eyes, Liu Yao skillfully controlled the cookie cup ointment at his elbow. With each opening, closing, and trembling, the force of the aperture point covered his arms and connected throughout his body. Liu Yao suddenly felt that his true qi was no longer wispy but had the sensation of a small tidal wave. Excellent! With this, I'm even more confident about the event in a few days. The girls were also amazed and gained greatly from the experience. No amount of secret manuals and miraculous medicines can compare to witnessing it with their own eyes. Yu Yanmei solemnly reminded them from the side. "You three can watch all you want, but when you try to train in aperture points, do not attempt it alone. You must do it under either my or Liu Yao's supervision." Liaoya and Liao Qi nodded seriously, while Li Pei also imperceptibly nodded in agreement. They weren't like Liu Yao, who had the blessing of the divine manifestation spirit refining stage. Attempting it recklessly could result in paralysis, hemiplegia, and other serious consequences. It was after Yu Yanmei's true qi nourishing aperture points training lesson, which wrapped up today's cultivation, that everyone's ears twitched, sensing a commotion at the base of Xiangshan. Standing atop a high place and looking down, there was a protest march of around 200 to 300 people. These young people were dressed quite westernized, some even in student attire. They were holding banners and chanting slogans. "Oppose the imperial system, support constitutionalism. Swear to fight to the death, not fearing the power. Rather be shattered jade than an intact tile. Looking at the protesting crowd, the girls' expressions turned sour. It was clear whom they were targeting. Liu Yao commented with interest, someone's actually playing the game of manipulating public opinion. I wonder who is behind it. Liao Qi couldn't sit still any longer and spoke up first, I'll go drive them away. Liu Yao laughed and said, no need, this little trouble doesn't warrant our intervention. No sooner had his words fallen than a swift figure burst out. Sui Arye. The girl was only 13 this year, a blooming beauty so delicate and exquisite that her pretty heart-shaped face was incredibly endearing. But she was also a marrow-cleansing realm martial artist. Sui Arya went straight to the front of the crowd and raised her fist, bursting the air with a bang, as if setting off a huge firecracker out of nowhere. The people who were originally swept up in fervor drastically changed their expressions, immediately calming down. The young girl in front of them was undeniably at the marrow-cleansing realm, she could easily cripple everyone present. Sui Arya stood tall and straight, her beautiful eyes sharpening as she slowly swept her gaze over each person. The marching crowd wavered like chaff in the wind, some standing defiantly still while others timidly retreated. 200 to 300 adults were actually being deterred by a 13-year-old girl, such was the unique scene in a world beyond the ordinary. For thousands of years, the fear of martial artists had been deeply embedded in the bones of commoners, it was also a natural reverence for higher beings. The scene fell deathly silent, but several exceptionally strong figures hidden in the crowd were about to stir things up again, and some with strong wills or those who practiced kung fu were also making moves. But Sui Arya's gaze had already preemptively shot over. Those seen by her inadvertently felt terrified, their skin tingling. This was a suppression effect that only occurred when there was a vast difference in strength. Many people thought incredulously, what a strong aura this girl has. What powerful cultivation. Liu Yao also praised, Arya has made rapid progress. This level of mental suppression, has she entered meditation already? Liao Ya proudly said, she just entered meditation. To achieve this at the age of 13, she's truly a heaven-sent prodigy. Within just a few sentences, the situation had drastically changed. Sui Arye, without uttering a word from start to finish, had caused the crowd to slowly retreat, and as they did, people started turning around and fleeing, throwing the scene into chaos. 3 figures stood out as being out of place. They weren't ordinary people, clearly possessing the cultivation of organ refining and marrow cleansing. Liu Yao pointed, and 3 spiritual sparrowhawks plummeted from the sky like lightning, each targeting one. Before these martial masters, as little more than blood exchange spirit birds, had a chance to resist, they were overpowered in every aspect, and before even a half scream could escape, they were torn into a shower of pieces by sharp talons. A few youngsters carrying banners were splashed in the face with blood and viscera, and they shrieked, throwing down the banners and flags, sprinting away as fast as they could with a stumble and tumble. Liu Yao remained relaxed throughout, saying softly, interesting, I'm curious to see what else they can come up with. Li Pei said, Big Lecher, if you don't want to be emperor, do you have any other plans? You'll know when the time comes. Liu Yao, feeling the surging true qi within his body, clenched his fist and said, I don't have time to dilly-dally with them, I'll resolve the issue in the most direct way. When the time comes, our whole family will have to take action. Chapter 465, Going Back to Mother's Home. Although Liu Yao only gave 3 days, all attendees were dominant forces that counted in the nation. Their spokespeople were all martial artists with profound cultivation, and with their speed of movement, there was no one who wanted to come that couldn't arrive. By the second day, even those from faraway places like Yunnan and Guangdong had rushed over. Some were excited and delighted, such as the martial artists from Yunzhou and Jinling, who had established good relations with Liu Yao during the resolution of the Sacred Heart Institute issue and were naturally happy to see him succeed. There were also a minority of upright martial artists and officials who were similarly elated. With the famous Lord Liu leading Divine Land, it was bound to rise spiritedly. But the vast majority were anxious like ants on a hot pan. In recent years, the imperial court had been weak in the shadows, and they had lived freely and happily like local emperors. The sudden emergence of an influential leader to manage and regulate would be unbearable for anyone accustomed to freedom. Not to mention that for some prefecture governments, opium cultivation was now a pillar industry, crucial for the livelihood of millions of workers, and they could not afford to have Liu Yao act recklessly. Fortunately, the arrival of great grandmasters Zhang Wenda and Yuan Kaisheng provided them with some reassurance. Jingyi Garden also became increasingly busy, with many visitors arriving every day. However, not all were there for Liu Yao, some came seeking out Li Pei. "Commandery Princess, your servant is here to pay my respects," said the visitor, eunuch Wang Zhen, the head of the internal servants of Li Pei's father. Eunuch Wang's hair had turned grey, and he seemed to have aged considerably in just a few short years. Li Pei replied calmly, "I did not expect eunuch Wang to visit in person." Eunuch Wang's expression carried an urgency he could not fully hide, and with a smile, he said, "Prince has been hoping to invite you and your husband to a feast at the mansion, but you have always declined." This old servant had no choice but to come personally to extend the invitation. Today, many relatives of the same clan have come to discuss important matters. "Commandery Princess, after all, you and your father are family, and you are a member of the Li family." Li Pei was well aware of what her family relations wished to do. Constantly making excuses was not a solution, and in a neither warm nor cold tone, she said, "Well, I will return and clarify the matters." Eunuch Wang opened his mouth as if to say something, but then hesitated. Li Pei knew what he meant and spoke directly, "My husband is in cultivation, so let's not disturb him. I can make a decision on this matter myself." Then this old servant will go back first to prepare, awaiting the Commandery Princess's esteemed arrival. Having been able to invite the Commandery Princess back was a good outcome, so the old eunuch took his chance to leave gracefully after bowing and taking his leave. In the melancholy of autumn since ancient times, eunuch Wang walked down the mountain full of worries. The imperial court had collapsed, and there was no capable figure to stand on the stage. The Li imperial family had extended multiple invitations and gestures of goodwill to Lord Liu, but all were blocked by the Commandery Princess, clearly unwilling to speak for the Li family. This time, the Commandery Princess reluctantly agreed to visit home, but it was only out of consideration for past relations. "Godfather, you're here." Lost in thought, eunuch Wang unexpectedly ran into an acquaintance. The eunuch he cared for like a son, Zhang Jin. In stark contrast to eunuch Wang's current state, Zhang Jin was radiant with health and appeared full of confidence and ambition. Eunuch Wang lamented, "Being in Lord Lu's service, you have become a person of importance now." Zhang Jin hurriedly waved his hand, "I'm just a watchdog in Lord Lu's service, attending to miscellaneous affairs around the house, hardly someone important." His modest words belied an excitement and pride he could not conceal. Eunuch Wang inwardly sighed at the thought that when one man achieves the Dao, his poultry and dogs ascend to the heavens too, and then said, "I've still got matters to attend to, we can catch up another day." After speaking, he headed for the car parked at the foot of the mountain, eager to return to the Wang mansion. And at that moment, Zhang Jin suddenly said from behind, "The imperial court is legitimate only if the great Grand Masters acknowledge it, without their recognition, it's nothing. Tell Prince Wang, with the Commandery Princess around, there isn't much he can do about it, so there's no need for him to always interfere." Eunuch Wang's figure paused, and without turning back, he bowed and hastened his pace into the carriage. "Return to the mansion quickly," he called out, only to find that the driver was in a daze. The driver, a family retainer from Wang Mansion, was staring at Zhang Jin dumbstruck with envy and admiration. Sometimes fate truly plays a hand, who could have imagined that the Commandery Princess would find such an outstanding son-in-law? The people who had followed the Commandery Princess on her flight that year were truly fortunate, it was a blessing accumulated over lifetimes to become disciples of a true lord. A few seconds later, under eunuch Wang's chilling gaze, the driver finally came to his senses and quickly stepped on the gas, speeding away. The once dilapidated and desolate Yiqin Prince Mansion was now bustling like a marketplace. Today was especially lively, with so many cars that there was no place to park, and newcomers had to leave their vehicles 2 streets away. The scene of guests continuously arriving in full throng brought a slightly improved color to the face of Li Pei's father. Li Gong. Surrounded by all sorts of flattering and fawning words, he indulged in even more daydreams. Those in attendance today included members of the Li imperial family and a handful of officials still loyal to the Great Shun dynasty. These people had one thing in common. They lacked strength. Most of them were in the organ refining stage, very few had reached the marrow cleansing stage, and those in the blood exchange realm were as rare as phoenix feathers and Kylan horns. Martial training is filled with hardship and pain, and as one progresses further, there is even the danger of losing one's life. In contrast, a comfortable living environment does not foster strong warriors. Born in distress, die in comfort, the ancients did not deceive me. The one who uttered this sigh was an official named Lien Wenzhong. He was an envoy from the Governor-General of Liangjiang, who came specifically to gather information. There were many others like him watching the crowd come and go, filled with disdain in their hearts. In this world, without strength, even a fart doesn't make a sound. A bunch of fringe figures, here only to speculate and take advantage. By 6 p.m. the sky was already turning dark, and the people present were growing increasingly restless, anxious for the arrival of the person they were waiting for. Just then, a loud and clear cry came from the sky as a splendid spiritual sparrowhawk, with a wingspan of over 8 meters, descended from above. Its white feathers, speckled with black, refracted a metallic sheen in the sunlight. As its wings flapped, the roomy courtyard was immediately filled with flying sand and rocks, compelling the guests to protect their heads and faces. Without needing their martial intuition to alert them, everyone knew they were no match for this spirit bird. They hurried to bow and compliment Li Pei ostentatiously, the flattery incessant. Li Pei could not be bothered with these people and casually responded to a few before heading to the rear residence to meet her father. There, Li Gong was already waiting with a crowd of relatives. A young boy and girl also rushed over, holding a hawk, and said to Li Pei, "Big sister, you're back. The hawk you gave us has grown so much." These were Li Pei's younger half-brother and sister, not yet 16. Seeing the hawk, which was still a common wild bird, and then thinking of the 3 spirit birds at home, both being the same species and yet so different in their circumstances, Li Pei's resolve grew even stronger. She nodded to her younger siblings and then went straight to her father and to the group of uncles and brothers by his side, and spoke directly. "The Great Shun dynasty is finished. I belong to the Lu family now. I will not make demands or set conditions on behalf of the Li imperial family to my husband. You can give up on that idea." Chapter 466, Abandon the small aspirations of sparrows and swallows, and admire the wild goose for its high flight. Li Gong and his group of elder imperial relatives originally wore smiles, ready to exchange pleasantries. Upon hearing Li Pei's words, their smiles suddenly froze on their faces. An extremely obese, idle prince exclaimed in shock and anger. "Li Pei! What nonsense are you spouting? The blood of the Li clan runs through your veins, our fates are intertwined, for better or for worse." Li Pei had even forgotten who this relative was, but with just one look, he clutched his chest, retreating 3 big steps, trembling like a quail egg. This was actually a bone-tempering mirror. Meddling in this matter was a joke. All of you, who are as useless as a pile of mud that won't stick to the wall, are fortunate if you can live out your lives in peace and safety. That by itself is a miracle. How dare you harbor such delusional dreams? Under the suppressive aura of an innate Grand Master, the group of royals suddenly found it hard to breathe. They quickly turned to look at Li Gong. Li Gong coughed and said, "Pai Pei, our demands are low. We simply need to follow the constitutional monarchy like Izumo and Einheit. As long as the realm doesn't change hands, everything can be discussed. We've analyzed Lord Lu's character, and he has truly no interest in power." As he spoke, the prince's eyes bulged suddenly, and his remaining words were stuck in his throat. The others present felt the same way, as if they had seen something unbelievable. Their eyes nearly bursting. In front of Li Pei hovered a cyan grand seal, flickering with a stunning glow, clearly not of this world. The inscription on the seal base, "Endowed by heaven with eternal prosperity," instantly made everyone aware of what it was. A magical treasure. It's really a magical treasure, the Imperial Jade Seal. Is this the reward that Liu Yao found in the underground palace? He actually gave it to Li Pei. A chorus of voices shouted aloud, even the guests in the front courtyard heard the commotion and looked over. Exclamations rose and fell in waves. They had only heard legends of magical treasures and, at best, had a brief understanding through records or illustrations. This was their first encounter with the actual item. The place was in noisy turmoil. Li Pei lightly tapped the jade seal with her finger, and visible ripples covered the entire area. In an instant, everyone present, except for Li Gong, had their thoughts frozen, standing as if petrified. After a few seconds, as they came back to their senses, their faces looked unwell. Being utterly powerless before a magical treasure, feeling like fish on a chopping board, was not a pleasant sensation. Taking advantage of their unsettled minds and distracted thoughts, Li Pei said to her father, "Father, let's take a walk together." Li Gong nodded with a complex expression, leaving the others behind to join his daughter beside the pond in the back garden. The koi fish in the pond sensed someone approaching and crowded to the surface, opening their mouths wide, begging for food. Li Pei sighed and began to speak. Father, I used to be very interested in wealth, power, and governing the country. I'm not afraid of your laughter, but I actually wanted to become the first female minister of military affairs. But ever since I followed my husband, I have encountered extraordinary things every day. Each thing I've experienced has influenced the great trends of the world. Suddenly, I felt how naive I was before. Li Pei gently caressed the imperial jade seal in her hand and continued. After reaching the innate state, I don't care much for myself, because it is merely a trivial advancement. My cultivation speed now is so fast that I find it unbelievable. With my husband's support, reaching the golden body realm is nothing special. Even a magical treasure like this, I don't think it's anything remarkable. Because if I want, my husband will give me something even better. Li Gong stared blankly at the magical treasure in his daughter's hand, still feeling as if he were in a dream, completely unable to understand why his daughter would possess such a thing. How overwhelmingly generous must Liu Yao be? Li Pei lifted her head, looking earnestly into her father's eyes, and said. My husband once said, the emperor is but a mortal ruler of this world. What he aims to do next will be an unprecedented great feat. My daughter just wants to follow him and experience the most spectacular sceneries in the world, to become the consort of an immortal. Please forgive my daughter's unfilial behavior, as she won't speak further in favor of Shun dynasty or the Li family, so as not to disturb her husband's decisions. Li Gong gradually regained his senses from the shock of the magical treasure as he listened to his daughter's heartfelt words. There was some regret, but also considerable relief. The queen had passed away early, and he shared a deep bond with his daughter, so naturally, he was happy to see her find such an immortal-like husband. It was also greed that got the better of me, swayed by others, I harbored thoughts that I shouldn't have. Li Gong sighed deeply and said, well then, with Lord Liu present, I should be able to remain a wealthy and distinguished prince, and the Li imperial family won't be eradicated. Such an outcome can indeed be considered the blessing of our ancestors. Since ancient times, whenever the world witnessed major changes, which royal family ever had a good ending? Not being annihilated is truly fortunate. Thank you, father, for your blessing. Li Pei was delighted to persuade her father and couldn't help but take a deep breath of relief. Li Gong, too, showed a smile as he let go of his troubles and thought to himself. My daughter owns a magical treasure, so surely there will be no small benefit for me as her father. Why bother with such troubles following others? By now, the servants had already served up fine wines and delicacies, but nobody cared any more, their minds elsewhere as they awaited the father and daughter's return. Many guests were still whispering about the magical treasure, the shock it brought was far from over and would explode and spread like a depth charge. Not long afterward, the dishes on the table were still warm when Li Gong actually returned on his own. The room instantly fell silent, and everyone turned to look at him. Li Gong scanned the room and, with a light chuckle, said, my daughter has been most improper, thank you all for your understanding. Please, do not be polite, enjoy the food and drink. The crowd cursed inwardly, who cares about that now? The previously affable prince hurriedly asked, that. He spoke at length but didn't manage to express his question, though everyone knew what he wanted to ask. Li Gong cleared his throat and stated solemnly, since we are all gathered here, I shall make my position clear. I forsake the meager ambitions of a sparrow and aspire to soar like a great swan. I support Lord Liu unconditionally and with all my might. The crowd was at first taken aback, then erupted into an uproar. Many from the royal family crowded around Li Gong, wanting to argue. No matter whether it was Liu Yao ascending the throne or whatever constitutional arrangements were made, it was not what they wished to see. But Li Gong had come to a realization and didn't want to bother with these people any longer. With a sweep of his sleeve, he said, I am not feeling well and will not be able to accompany you any further, please enjoy yourselves. With that, he left the banquet. At this time, Li Pei had already ridden Ruyi back home. By coincidence, the family was massaging and refining true qi for the spiritual sparrowhawks, and she and Ruyi joined in as well. 5 grand masters attending to them. It was a treatment the first emperor of Qin might have had. The 3 spiritual sparrowhawks cooperated well, occasionally lifting their wings to enjoy the pampering. After the busy work, the spiritual sparrowhawks lay sprawled out on the ground, too comfortable to want to move. Yu Yanmei, feeling shy and embarrassed before everyone else, was the first to flash away and leave. Li Pei seemed to have something to say, but hesitated to speak. Liu Yao came over with a grin and said, Pai Pei, how about I take good care of you tonight? Guaranteed satisfaction. Li Pei pushed him away. Get lost, you can't touch me for half a month. As soon as she finished speaking, before Liu Yao could react, Liao Qi exclaimed with surprise, "Ah! Really? Does this mean I get to sleep alone with Liu Yao tonight?" Li Pei was fuming with annoyance and reached to pinch her mouth. "Can't you stop being so happy about it?" Chapter 467, Let the guest speak first. 3 days had flown by, and at last, the day set by Liu Yao had arrived. This day happened to be the first day of the 11th month, which the lunar calendar warned, not suitable for any matters. Early in the morning, Liao Qi was joyfully helping Liu Yao wash up and get dressed. Having had the rare luxury of her husband's undivided attention the night before, the young girl was in high spirits. Using the warm water in the copper basin, she meticulously cleaned every inch of Liu Yao's body. Her unique constitution always left her husband all dirty, so she had to clean him thoroughly, something that Li Pei had often teased her about. After busying herself for half a day, Liao Qi finally dressed her husband in a rather flamboyant white robe. The robe featured wide clothing and large sleeves, lightly tied with a sash, striking an ethereal and elegant figure, all while flaunting a spirited demeanor. Liao Qi nodded in satisfaction, her eyes brimming with admiration. "Liu Yao, you look so handsome. Today, you will definitely get what you wish for and achieve a resounding victory. Thank you for your auspicious words, junior sister." Liu Yao wrapped his arms around the girl's waist and set her on his lap, chuckling lightly, "I will have to rely on you a lot in the future. Don't worry. I've got your back," Liao Qi said, brimming with confidence and curling her tiny fist, "I am a grandmaster, after all, and I have a magical treasure." After saying this, her face suddenly turned gloomy, and she touched her lower abdomen. "My cultivation has improved too quickly. Without realizing it, I've reached innate level, but I still want to have your babies. The stronger the life form, the more difficult it is to reproduce. This is also true for martial artists. The higher their realm, the harder it is to conceive." Looking at the beautiful girl before him, blossoming like the first flowers of spring, Liu Yao reassured. "There's plenty of time. We will have a lifespan of 200 years or even longer. If we keep trying, there will be a chance." Liao Qi felt slightly relieved and nodded lightly. Once they were ready, the two headed to the location of the gathering. The Imperial Palace. Yu Yanmei, Li Pei, Liao Ye and Sui Arya had already gone ahead to make arrangements and provide support, and were not at home. Today, the usually cold imperial city once again bustled with life, even more crowded than the usual monthly imperial court meetings on the first of the month. Officials from all over the country, leaders of various factions, heads of aristocratic clans, and their entourages and staff. A total of over 10,000 people were gathered in the Great Harmony Square in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. This number didn't even include the Imperial Guards maintaining order. The most eye-catching were Zhang Wenda and Yuan Kaisheng, the two great grandmasters, surrounded by the largest crowds. Next were a few regional governors led by Governor-General of Liangzhong Lu Kunyi, also commanding significant attention. Not to mention numerous large and small martial arts sects too many to count. Of all those standing there, not a single one was an ordinary person, even the weakest was at the stage of organ refining. People of various statuses whispered to one another, while chants for opposition to the imperial system, support for constitutionalism faintly echoed from outside the palace gates. An outcry of numerous civilians waving flags and banners in protest. Someone scoffed, "Ordinary people are always so fanciful, as if Lord Liu could be swayed by a few slogans. What do they know? This must be someone's doing, stirring them up from behind. Just watch how it unfolds. Adopting constitutionalism could benefit us greatly." As this was said, the crowd generally agreed. If they were to follow the Western electoral system, they could surely become a member of parliament or a representative of the people, and with the votes they held, they might gain a share of the power. Zhang Wenda, Yuan Kaisheng and a few others with deep levels of cultivation twitched their ears, catching the conversation. A sly smile played on their lips, one of amusement that wasn't quite a smile. As time passed, the expressions on people's faces grew more solemn. When 9 o'clock in the morning struck, a figure in white descended elegantly from the sky, landing on the platform of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. It was Liu Yao. Among the tens of thousands present, only 300 had the qualification to stand up at the front and speak. They lined up according to their strength and the size of their respective forces, bowing with fists clasped, "Greetings, Lord Liu. After they paid their respects, the tens of thousands behind them also greeted in unison, "We pay homage to Lord Lu." The shouts of nearly 10,000 martial artists soared to the heavens. Flocks of birds took flight in alarm, and the voluntary or hired protesters outside the palace were also startled. Liu Yao looked composed, and with a wave of his sleeve, although his voice was not loud, it clearly reached everyone's ears, displaying his impressive cultivation. "Thank you all for being here. Today's assembly is to strategize on the future of Divine Land, and you may all speak your minds freely." For a moment, the hall fell utterly silent, with no one speaking out. At this moment, many who had known Liu Yao for some time found the scene quite fantastical. Such as the prefectural governor of Yunzhou, Wen Renliang, Lin Zhongqing of the Zhenhai Fleet, and Du Wenlin from the Jiangnan Manufacturing Bureau. In just a few short years, Liu Yao had soared to great heights, and now he was speaking confidently in front of tens of thousands of martial artists. As the old saying goes, a new generation replaces the old, and talents emerge in every era to dominate for centuries. The child of destiny, truly extraordinary. While countless people were having these thoughts, Liu Yao's 4 women walked in gracefully. Yu Yanmei and the 3 Liao family sisters stood tall and proud on either side of the imperial path, while Li Pei approached with a piece of paper in hand and presented it with both hands. "My lord, the tally is complete." Invitations were sent out to 432 forces and individuals, with 29 failing to show up. Liu Yao took the paper, glanced at it indifferently, and said, "Those who did not come, exterminate them all." Li Pei bowed and complied, "As my lord commands." The couple was simply reporting on their work on stage, but it caused an uproar among the people below. Exterminate them all? Isn't that a bit excessive? Just a word, and people are expected to travel thousands of miles to come here, and if they don't, they're to be exterminated. How could one be so cruel? The mountain is high and the emperor is far away. I'd like to see how this Lu plans to exterminate them all. Seeing the crowd in argument, Liao Ya's brow furrowed, and she shouted fiercely, "Silence!" Her shout was like a thunderclap that left those nearby reeling with buzzing heads. The crowd gradually quieted down, staring at Liu Yao's women with shock. 1 organ refining, 3 innates, all 4 women are grandmasters. What a tremendous amount of resources and effort this must have taken. The presence of grandmasters is what distinguishes a force that can take the stage. Many people suddenly realized they couldn't even deal with Liu Yao's women, let alone him. Some expressed envy and jealousy. The Liao family fist was originally just a small figure that didn't make it to the big stage, but these sisters, blessed with good looks, have actually equaled decades of our arduous cultivation. It is absolutely infuriating. At this moment, countless people thought. 1 family with 4 grandmasters, and 3 blood exchange realm spiritual sparrowhawks. Those powers that relied on their remote locations and ignored Lord Lu's orders, were certainly in for a disaster. There were some who hated Liu Yao to the bone but still came to the assembly with pinched noses, feeling deeply relieved. And there was a young man looking in the direction of the girl named Sua Arya, with an obvious look of envy, saying, "There's another young one too. A 13-year-old who has completed organ refining." The young girl was helping maintain order with the imperial guards, standing out not just for her cultivation, but also for her looks. At this time, Liu Yao spoke up again, "Since no one else will speak, then allow me to say a few words." The audience looked somber, listening intently. Liu Yao continued, "It's widely rumored that I wish to become emperor. Many must have investigated and known that I have no interest in worldly power and authority and will certainly not ascend to the throne." As soon as these words came out, the crowd erupted with uncontained emotion, and countless faces showed the color of wild joy. The Governor-General of Liangzhong Lu Kunyi even interrupted rudely. "Lord Liu, are these words true?" No sooner had he spoken than he answered his own question, "I apologize for my rudeness. The Lord speaks in front of so many, surely there is no falsehood." At this moment, Governor Lu was indeed overjoyed, having never imagined that Liu Yao would actually take the bait. The people protesting in the streets had been brought in by him. Even when interrupted, Liu Yao showed no anger and looked at him smilingly, saying, "Governor Lu seems to have insight. Guests who have traveled far deserve to speak first. Please, do share your views. Anyone with objections should also speak freely, as I will not be discourteous to a guest." Encouraged by the looks from his colleagues, Lu Kunyi said with restraint, "Then, I shall speak a few words." Chapter 468, bullying the weak by relying on one's strength. The Shun dynasty had 9 governor-generals, all high-ranking regional governors, but their statuses varied greatly. For instance, the governor of Zhili, Yuan Kaisheng, and the governor of Huiguang, Zhang Wenda, oversaw territories so wealthy they might as well have been sovereigns in their own right, wielding supreme military and political power. The governor of Yongyi was often a post for ministers in disgrace, banished there. Weak in power and low in presence, they were mere weather vanes, following the victor's lead. The soon-to-speak governor-general of Liangjiang, Lu Kunyi, was a regional governor second only to Zhang and Yuan in influence. For these senior ministers, only a constitutional government could ensure their independence and safeguard their rights to the greatest extent. At this moment, Lu Kunyi spoke confidently. The divine land is weak within and bullied from without, a plight rooted in our outdated national structure. Look to the world's powerful nations today, which still relies on absolute monarchy. If we follow the overseas example and implement a constitution, we can enrich the people, strengthen the nation, and remake our territory. The foreign powers that once despised us will shift to respect us, changing their policies of aggression to peaceful diplomacy. This statement sounded familiar, having been seen in newspapers before, and Liu Yao couldn't help but laugh out loud. Are you jesting, Governor Lu? You actually believe foreign aggression is due to our form of governance? Others in the neutral camp found it amusing too and laughed along, joined by the roars of laughter from Liu Yao's supporters, turning the venue into a sea of merriment. Lu Kunyi's face could not contain the slight, and he turned to Zhang Wenda and Yuan Kaisheng, saying, I am but a humble official with limited wisdom, surely the 2 esteemed sirs have more insightful views. Lu Kunyi believed they shared common interests, signaling to them both to stand up and jointly advocate for constitutionalism, rushing to have the matter settled. Liu Yao said as well, guests are to be welcomed, feel free to share any thoughts. Zhang Wenda stroked his beard and said, the current situation is precarious and requires urgent attention. We must be resolute in reforming and revitalizing the nation. I am in favor of constitutionalism. A parliament should be promptly convened, a constitution promulgated, adopting Western systems for electing a president and prime minister. As soon as he finished, Yuan Kaisheng declared boldly. Shifting from despotism to constitutionalism is undoubtedly a good thing, allowing us all to collaborate and strategize for the benefit of our country. Grandmaster Yuan certainly had a way with words, enticing the martial artists present with promises. Many neutral martial artists thought indeed it was true, after a constitution was in place, they could vie for legislative seats based on their abilities. What a delightful prospect, no? Moreover, if Liu Yao became the emperor, wouldn't they all have one more ancestor to answer to? That would be rather uncomfortable. Thus, the audience seemed in tacit agreement, each taking turns promoting constitutionalism. From establishing a preparatory constitutional committee, to reforming the governmental system, founding state banks and modern schools, and finally, to discussing the imperially sanctioned constitutional outline. This group was adept at following the wind, and as they spoke, they seemingly settled the matter. Liu Yao said with a smile, such adept hands at governing the country. At this moment, his supporters were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. After all, many had high hopes for Liu Yao and wished to ride his coattails to win favor from Lord Liu. Among them were officials and martial artists from Jingjinji region, Yunzhou, Wudang, Imperial Guards, and even the Holy Maiden of the Joyful sect who had sneaked in, and their numbers were not few. Yet Liu Yao, all smiles, was far from being in a hurry, while they were on edge. An official from Jinmen spoke up in opposition, our country's customs and sentiments are distinct from those of Western nations, we cannot simply transplant their laws. This matter should be approached with more consideration, not haste. But he was immediately countered, constitutionalism is unanimously welcomed, even Lord Liu has said nothing, who are you to object? In this way, Liu Yao's supporters couldn't get a word in edgeways, fragmented like loose sand, utterly ineffectual. And at this crucial moment, Zhou Xiaoyi was absent, having only sent his son to attend. The constitutionalists grew more arrogant upon witnessing this, feeling a certain victory was in their hands. Meanwhile, Liu Yao's supporters were despondent, Zhou Xiaoyi places too much trust in Lord Liu, the nation's powers should not be so easily yielded. Everyone thought the situation was settled. Even the normally stoic Yuan Kaisheng smiled as he cupped his fist towards Liu Yao, saying, Lord Liu's lack of desire for power and privilege is truly admirable. The divine land will still look to your guidance in the future. But as he finished speaking, his heart skipped a beat, a foreboding premonition rising within him. The four younger sisters of Liu Yao remained composed and dignified, silently standing there without a word. Liu Yao himself was smiling, but upon closer inspection, it was a sneer of mockery. The next second, he slowly raised his hand. Those who were in the midst of arguing, from the nearest to the furthest, sequentially fell silent, until not a sound could be heard. This seat has followed the proper etiquette for hosting guests and allowed you all to speak freely, Liu Yao said loud and clear. Now, it is time for me to share my thoughts. At that moment, a massive, vague silhouette with 3 heads and 6 arms faintly appeared behind him, all 3 faces turning to look, causing many sensitive martial artists' hearts to race. Zhang Wenda, Yuan Kaisheng, and Lu Kunyi, the 3 governors, felt a sinking feeling, realizing they had perhaps underestimated Mr. Liu. The others didn't dare to even breathe heavily, silently awaiting what was to come. Liu Yao spoke slowly, "You people are not thinking of the nation's welfare, but only scheming to gain benefits for yourselves. The so-called constitutionalism sounds nice but is too mired in procrastination. I'm not interested, let's end this matter." Yuan Kaishen's expression changed, and he hastily said, "You just said you would not ascend to the throne and become emperor." Liu Yao nodded, "Indeed, I have neither the energy nor interest to be an emperor of the mortal realm." So. As the crowd heard this, their expressions eased slightly. But immediately after, Liu Yao unexpectedly put his arm around Li Pei's shoulder and addressed the audience. "Therefore, I have found you an empress. Comrade Li Pei is virtuous and capable, possesses great wisdom and strategy, and moreover, has a benevolent love for the people. There is no better candidate for the emperor." Upon these words, a tumultuous uproar rose straight to the heavens. "A hen crowing at dawn? Surely I misheard. This is absolutely impossible. After a millennium, how dare he reenact the story of Wuzation? Is Lord Liu jesting? How can we allow a woman to reign supreme over the world?" The crowd was fervently agitated, and even the younger sisters looked shocked. Especially Li Pei, who never imagined her husband would pull such a stunt. Her ample chest heaved rapidly as she opened her phoenix eyes wide, unable to utter a word. "Everyone, don't get so excited. Calm down," Liu Yao said indifferently, "the Shun dynasty's national fortune has been lost. Let us pledge allegiance to the Empress first, then we can slowly consider a new national title." "Absolutely not." The 3 governors, Zhang, Yuan, and Lu, went red in the face, completely unable to accept this proposal. "Lord Liu! How can you treat matters of the nation as child's play? How can you use the welfare of the state to please a woman as your bedroom joy? Do you really dare to commit such outrageous acts against all under heaven? Are you not afraid of the people's wagging tongues?" Liu Yao's expression turned cold, his voice trembling with thunderous resonance. "Then let's be clear. I am not seeking your opinions. If you are willing to comply, wait for the coronation of the new empress. If you are not, you may leave now. I won't be rude to visitors, but once you've left, we can slowly settle our accounts." Such an arrogant and naked threat caused countless people to shout loudly. "How can you be so willfully tyrannical, bullying with strength? Do you truly believe we dare not risk our lives in defiance?" Faced with a multitude of accusations, Liu Yao still appeared composed. "Quite spirited, aren't you? There's another choice, attack me now, all at once. There are thousands of you here, it's worth a try." As he spoke, the manifestation behind him became ever clearer, the faces on the left and right showing a playful and anticipative expression as they looked at the crowd. The crowd took 3 steps back and then looked toward the 3 governors, Zhang, Yuan, and Lu, who were also uncertain and had shifting expressions. Just then, a sudden fierce shout broke out, "Who dares be disrespectful to Lord Liu?" Dong Fuxiang and Fu Fangsheng appeared with a troop of armored guards rushing in. Chapter 469, Using one to coerce 10,000. Many martial artists were furiously unrestrained, truly willing to risk their lives to attack Liu Yao. Liu Yao's actions were excessively malicious. He first gave hope to everyone, then ruthlessly crushed it and trampled it further. For a woman to reign over the world, in the eyes of others, was a ruthless humiliation. However, once the mecha warriors arrived, the already scheming crowd was as if doused with a bucket of cold water. Presently, there were 500 imperial guards rushing over, along with 100 civilian martial artists led by Fu Fangsheng. Not a trace of flesh was exposed on these warriors, their entire bodies covered in steel. Besides the lightweight battle armor, there were also 20 cumbersome mechas. The mechas, all piloted by Blood Exchange realm martial artists, made the ground tremble with every step they took. Facing the dark, thick barrels pointed at them, many who were filled with rage instantly calmed down, recognizing them as cannon guns. How can there be so many knight armors? Which country's design style is this? Definitely not Jihad. Damn it! That Lu is a devil. This devil was well prepared. As everyone trembled with fear, Liu Yao first addressed the mecha warriors. If there is a battle later, you don't need to intervene, let me handle it myself. Then, he looked at the group of frightened people with a hint of contempt. Now that the Imperial Guards will not intervene, I'll give you another chance. As long as you defeat me, you can establish a constitution, or even proclaim yourself king. Seeing that the other side was leaving them without any face, Yuan Kaisheng said with a cold expression. Lord Liu. Are you truly going to disregard morality and jeopardize the grand scheme for your own selfish interests? Liu Yao, with a flick of his large sleeve, spoke calmly and gracefully. Lord Yuan's words are utterly erroneous. Right now, I am the grand scheme, and those disregarding it are you. You. At this moment, Liu Yao was actually indifferent. If these people acted, he would naturally take it as a chance to go on a killing spree, and if they cowered, he would just consider it as conserving energy to slowly govern. Either way was fine for him. This was exactly what arduous cultivation sought after. Doing as one pleased. No matter the conspiracy or the political tricks, in the face of absolute power, they could only shatter to pieces. There was no room for compromise or submission, it was a direct, definitive blow. Liu Yao's attitude was full of nonchalance, seemingly not taking anyone seriously. The opposing attendees, grinding their teeth in hatred, were completely helpless and could only watch helplessly as they were humiliated. The two great grandmasters and a number of governors exchanged glances, silently communicating. Yuan Kaisheng and Lu Kunyi were actually eager to fight at this moment. They had gotten carried away earlier and revealed their intentions, knowing that they would eventually be dealt with by Liu Yao. But Zhang Wenda's gaze flickered as he avoided eye contact. If thousands were to attack together, there might be a chance to eliminate this devil, but it would come with an exorbitant price, and a rabble would certainly not hold up. Moreover, the new dynasty was in need of people, and he reckoned that maintaining his current status would not be difficult considering his relationship with Zhou. There was no need to put himself in jeopardy. The few of them looked at each other indecisively for a while, and under the overwhelming might of Liu Yao, the entire troop was retreating steadily. Liu Yao glanced at Zhang Wenda, Yuan Kaisheng, Lu Kunyi, and representatives from the Tehu sect, Qingcheng sect, and Diankang sect, and said indifferently. So now, gentlemen, it is time to make your choice. No sooner had his voice faded, than his godly form fully manifested between heaven and earth, appearing nearly 100 meters tall as he looked down upon the trembling ants on the ground. Some who saw this magnificent figure reminiscent of gods and demons for the first time, actually lost composure and fell to the ground sitting. In an instant, one was pressing upon 10,000, and the heroes were bound hand and foot. These renowned strong figures in the world, who dominated territories, were astonishingly subdued by Liu Yao alone, not daring to speak aloud. At this moment, everyone in the arena was looking at him, their expressions varied. Some were in awe, exclaiming that a man should be just so. Others were full of admiration and infatuation. Yu Yanmei, Li Pei, and the Liao family sisters felt their hearts melting. Beyond them, countless other girls were stirring with excitement. Sua Arya was among them. She gazed unblinkingly at her own uncle, her pretty and incomparable melon seed face blushing, her expression shy and bashful. The girl believed that there was no man in the world better than Liu Yao. Arya deeply resented her slow growth and young age, as she could only watch helplessly as more and more women flocked to her uncle. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt warmth surge through her body, a hot stream emerging from her abdomen. The young girl was 13 this year, and in 2 more months, when it was the beginning of the lunar year, she would be 14. At this age, Liaoya had long since taught her some things in advance, and Arya immediately realized. Her period had come. Her face flushed instantly, and she quickly took off using her footwork to a secluded area, where she took out the sanitary items her master had prepared for her. Luckily, everyone's attention was on Liu Yao, so no one noticed her. At this moment, the faces of the constitutionalists were very stiff, but Liu Yao's supporters were jubilant. Even if Lord Liu does not ascend the throne, his authority surpasses that of an emperor. Exactly. And since the commandery Princess Yongping is so obedient to him, does it even make a difference who takes the throne? This way, many loyalists from the old dynasty will naturally support him. Look, several governors have already dissociated themselves from the constitutionalists. This must have been a strategy Lord Lu had long planned. What a great tactic! Just as they had said, the constitutionalists were thrown into disarray, with many of their former supporters now eager to distance themselves and dissociate. It wasn't long before only governors Zhang, Yuan, and Lu, with their staunch supporters, remained. The group that had been powerful and influential now suddenly became the minority. At the same time, Zhou Xiaoyi, the son of Left Minister Zhou, stood up and declared loudly. My father supports every decision Lord Lu makes. Our nation faces troubling times. I hope everyone will consider the bigger picture and not dwell on personal gains, ignoring the greater good. With this, Liu Yao could be said to have not only overwhelming power but also, with the support of the left minister, had taken the moral high ground. The overall situation was settled. Zhang Wenda sighed and was the first to bow to Li Pei, saying, Commandery Princess Yongping possesses wisdom, strategy, virtue, and talent, unquestionably an excellent choice to inherit the imperial throne. This official has no objections. As soon as he spoke, those who relied on his support also bowed one after another to show submission. After that, a group of people cleared a space and moved aside. Yuan Kaisheng looked upset as he tried to retain Zhang, saying, Brother Zhang, are you just going to watch these people mess around? He hasn't even thought of a national title yet. It's absurd. Zhang Wenda's expression remained unchanged. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. The Western powers have empresses as well. As for the national title, that's not important. We can think about it slowly. Upon hearing this, Yuan Kaisheng burst into ironic laughter. He glanced at Li Pei, who was still in a daze, his mind filled with reluctance and an outcry against the unfairness of fate. His lifelong pursuit had been so easily grasped by a woman with mere looks. Why should someone spread their legs and that be worth more than his half a lifetime of schemes? It was simply too unfair. At that moment, Yuan Kaisheng stared directly at Liu Yao, making his last struggle. Lord Liu, you are so arrogant and domineering, yet you fail to see that a great disaster is upon us. The reliable information I've obtained, the Western powers will convene a post-war treaty conference in the lunar month. At that time, they will have the resources to deal with you. Chapter 470, Retreat after Success. Hearing this news, Zhou Xiaoyi and the others showed worried expressions on their faces. During the civil war among the great powers, the divine land showed no signs of improvement. Instead, the nation's fortunes waned day by day. If the foreign devils were to invade, what could be done? Yuan Kaisheng continued with a cold face. Lord Liu, the matter of dealing with you has already been scheduled on the agenda of the great powers. Einheit has given Izumo substantial support, helping it regain its vitality. That Izumo Emperor, with both a golden body and the divine manifestation of the Holy Realm, is also desperately gathering information about you. If Lord Liu would retract the decision, we could still sit down and have a proper discussion. If you persist in going your own way, don't blame me for looking out for myself. After Yuan Kaisheng shouted out these words, he carefully observed Liu Yao's reaction. His words served two purposes. First, to force the opponent to withdraw the absurd Empress decision so that everyone could sit down and discuss constitutional matters anew. Even if that didn't work, at least Liu Yao would be made to feel like he was facing a formidable enemy, focusing all of his attention on the great powers and not having the time to deal with Yuan. But no matter how you looked at it, this man surnamed Lu's expression remained calm and composed. At this moment, Liu Yao nodded lightly and said, The Izumo Emperor and I have been in divine communion for a long time, a battle between us will happen sooner or later. There's no need for Lord Yuan to worry about me. You should rather worry about yourself. Yuan Kaisheng's expression changed. You're going to make a move on me. I came here at an invitation, and this would be without honor. As he spoke, he subtly placed his hand on the hilt of his sword at his waist, the Izumo divine soldier Budo no Mitama that never left his side. Lu Kunyi's expression also changed uncertainly, his fists clenching and unclenching. Their trusted aides appeared as if they were facing a great enemy, with cold sweat soaking through their clothes. At this extremely tense moment, Liu Yao suddenly let out a laugh. What are you so afraid of? Since you were invited here, I will ensure your safety and well-being. A group of people immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Kun swallowed hard and said, Lord Lu is such a person of presence. Then, what if we refuse to pledge loyalty to the new emperor? Liu Ya replied with a serene smile, as for rebellious officials and treacherous subjects, they must naturally be exterminated. However, Governor Liu, you and your lot are not at the top of the list, I have to eliminate those who didn't show up today first. Lu Kunyi. Liu Yao looked at the man's dumbstruck expression and laughed. By tradition, the coronation ceremony is held on the first day of the lunar year. I will dispose of your kind before then. Go back and make sure you prepare well. The expressions of both men changed drastically, and they trembled with anger at the other's arrogant attitude. At that moment, everyone present realized that Liu Yao was unmistakably bullying others with his power and doing whatever he pleased. But no one could do anything about it. Yuan Kaisung and Lu Kun were experiencing the feeling of being trampled upon and arbitrarily bullied by others after a long absence. At this time, the confidants of the two men had already approached and whispered. My lord, we should not stay here for long. Should that man surnamed Liu change his mind, it would not be good. As long as we live, there's no fear of running out of firewood. Let's leave quickly. Staying would only bring more humiliation. Surrounded by their confidants, both men left, watching Liu Yao warily as they made their awkward escape. Little did they know that Liu Yao was not in a hurry to take their lives. The great land was already his property, and naturally, he wanted to take it into complete control with the least possible loss. These two men were just right for alluring the enemy. Once the insignificant ones had left, the remaining people immediately crowded around to offer flattery and seek favor. Zhang Wenda even expressed his willingness to draft the coronation edict and plan the coronation ceremony. This person was rather perceptive and also held the title of Grand Scholar, so such tasks were naturally within his wheelhouse. Liu Yao straightforwardly agreed. However, without rice, even the cleverest housewife cannot cook. Zhang Wenda began to inquire, I wonder what the name of the new dynasty will be? And the various statutes. Since it concerned the future national structure, the others also listened intently with focused spirit. Liu Yao pondered for a moment, then started to explain, since everyone is here, I'll just briefly go over it. The various system regulations, those people previously discussed establishing constitutionalism and said a lot about it, revising the official system, starting state-owned banks, and new schools, all of it is quite sensible, so we'll follow these principles. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Wenda and the others showed a trace of embarrassed smiles. Those were all ideas they, as recent adherents, had passionately proposed, some overly idealistic, yet now that Lord Liu had spoken, they had no choice but to follow through, essentially shooting themselves in the foot. Liu Yao continued, also, from now on, opium and human trafficking are strictly illegal, and all treaties signed with the powers will be null and void. Let's leave it at that for now. The room erupted into commotion, with everyone clamoring to ask more questions. Liu Yao gestured and pushed Li Pei forward, saying, you can discuss the specifics with the future empress. Li Pei stood stern-faced, forcing herself to appear calm. Those familiar with her could tell she was somewhat at a loss. Clearly, she was not ready to become the emperor. Liu Yao patted her shoulder, speaking gently, I support you, do whatever you want to do. Hearing these words, Li Pei felt a surge of boundless courage, with my lover's support, even a pig could become the emperor. What have I to fear? Suddenly, her phoenix eyes flashed with a fierce determination, yet she remained dignified and majestic. With the imperial aura fully unleashed, she indeed possessed the makings of a great emperor. Liu Yao smiled and left the stage to the newly minted empress, achieving a graceful exit. With the remaining sisters, he returned home to live in untroubled joy. Only Yu Yanmei stayed behind with Fran to accompany them. In the tranquility of Jingyi Garden, Liu Yao contentedly nestled into his senior sister's ample and shockingly firm bosom, enjoying a full-body massage from the sister flowers. Today I truly witnessed what it means to control the clouds with a wave of the hand and command the rain with another. Junior brother, with just a few words, you decided the fate of the throne. Truly impressive. Liao Ye's eyes, clear and gentle as still waters, were full of admiration. Liao Qi, while massaging her beloved's feet, chuckled and said, who would have thought you'd make Li Pei the empress? Should we kneel when we see her in the future? After finishing her sentence, she got up and imitated the movements she had seen on the stage, curtsying deeply and teasingly shouting. Long live the empress! Oh my, your majesty, what are these two big bowls hiding in front of your chest, ha ha ha! She then laughed herself into hysterics. Liao Ya smacked her younger sister's head, Don't be so disrespectful. Liao Qi made a face and said, the ones being disrespectful are you all. You, Li Pei, and Grandmaster Yu, all of you should be calling me sister. Liao Ye's face flushed with embarrassment. By rights, that's exactly how it should be. At that moment, little Suer came over, coy and hesitant. Seeing her student's awkward manner, Liao Ye's intuition led her to approach. The two whispered to each other, and joy appeared on Liao Ye's face. No need to be shy, this is a good thing, it means you're becoming a young woman. Upon hearing this, little Suer was also very happy, glancing secretly towards Liu Yao. Although martial artists have strong physiques, some matters should not be taken lightly. Liao Ya instructed her student on what to be mindful of during menstruation. After the young girl diligently memorized it, she respectfully bowed to her teacher and withdrew. Liao Ya returned with a smile on her face. Liu Yao had overheard the conversation and felt somewhat nostalgic. In the blink of an eye, that little girl has also grown up. Next, let's discuss plans for the campaign against the disobedient subjects. Chapter 471, To Kill a Chicken, Why Use an Ox Cleaver? Changing dynasties without bloodshed is impossible, so let's eliminate the forces that haven't arrived yet. Most of them are major opium growers, which will make it easier to ban the substance. With just a few words, Liu Yao decided the fate of the 29 absent forces. The Liao family sisters remained calm, seeing nothing wrong. No matter where these forces were located, with the spiritual sparrowhawk at their disposal, they could reach them instantly. If they said you'd be eradicated, you would be. Liu Yao continued, there are definitely those among those who have defected who are insincere. We don't have time to dilly-dally with them, they'll be exterminated as soon as they're found. Liao Ya and Liao Qi nodded in agreement repeatedly, whatever you want to do, we will support you. The two sisters looked at their junior brother with eyes full of admiration, determined to support their man in achieving an extraordinary feat. You really are my good girls, Liu Yao said as he hugged each one and kissed them. These were wives he could trust with his life, and his divine soul could even sense the positive willpower emanating from the two women. Full of love and admiration, with not a trace of negative effects, Liu Yao closed his eyes and indulged in the sensation. The sisters quietly massaged him, one in front and one behind, without disturbing him. After a little while, Liu Yao opened his eyes, feeling refreshed and his divine soul in a wonderful state. He exhaled and carried on, there are also Yuan Kaisheng and Lu Kunyi. I don't know where Lu Kunyi gets his courage from, but Yuan Kaisheng is very likely conspiring with the Japanese, he ren. Liao Ya nodded, just by looking at the katana he carries at his waist, you can tell. Although he conceals it well, my divine sense perception is constantly on alert, it's definitely not something ordinary. At that moment, Liao Qi opened her mouth to speak but restrained herself after a glance from her sister. Liu Yao knew exactly what she wanted to say, something he also intended to bring up, it was about the sister's mother. Madame Xiao. Then, Liu Yao took his senior sister's tender and smooth hand, speaking softly. When dealing with Yuan Kaisheng, we'll also rescue Madame Xiao so you can reunite with your mother. Liao Qi's eyes shone brightly as she stared at her sister, full of expectation. But Liao Ya's expression turned cold, and she turned her face away, saying, that woman doesn't need our help, she's living comfortably in the Grand Master's mansion. Liu Yao gently stroked his junior sister's back, saying, I've met her once, Madame Xiao's status is only slightly higher than that of a servant. She must have had a hard life these years. Since Yuan Kaisheng certainly needs to be taken care of, it wouldn't be right to leave her destitute. After a glance at her sister, who was nodding furiously, Liao Yu reluctantly agreed. All right then, once she's rescued, we'll send her back to the Xiao family. But there's no need for a mother-daughter reunion, she has remarried and legally she has no ties to us anymore. Liu Yao asked somewhat puzzled, Senior sister, why do you harbor such resentment toward your mother? She must have been forced by the Xiao family to remarry, right? Liao Ya shook her head gently, I was already 8 years old then, and I remember clearly the happy and expectant smile on her face, there was no coercion at all. After she remarried, she never inquired about us sisters again. Finding family matters difficult to judge, Liu Yao changed the subject to talk about cultivation. My cultivation progress is very fast, and I should be able to reach the Jinwala realm within 3 months. However, the radioactive substances are too potent, and I need the orchid fragrance from senior sister to neutralize it. Liao Ya was indeed diverted, smiling as she said, then I'll dance for you. With the great joy in the dance of heavenly demons, she can actively release the orchid fragrance, a magical pheromone that's an indispensable trump card for the family. At first, Liaoya felt embarrassed, but after seeing how orchid fragrance could exponentially increase one's physical functions by 7 or 8 times, with such a strong supportive effect and no side effects, she let go of her reservations. Just as she was twisting her waist and raising her hips to start her dance to perform for her junior brother, a sudden whooshing sound of something cutting through the air at high speed was heard. It turned out to be Li Pei and Yu Yanmei returning. Liaoye, how can you dance without me? Li Pei descended from the sky and excitedly hugged Liaoye. Liao Qi watched from the side, her tongue tied in astonishment, as she gestured comparing her own skills, which were nowhere near the same level. Then, with a turn of her eyes, she ran forward playfully and yelled, "Your servant greets your majesty, long live the empress." Li Pei crossed her arms and laughed, "You're skimping, I should punish you for your grave disrespect, sentence you to the cold palace where you'll never see your beloved." After much giggling and frolicking among the sisters, Yu Yanmei came over, looked Liu Yao up and down, and sincerely exclaimed, "What a grand gesture, such grandeur! You've directly given your woman a throne." Liu Yao laughed, "I've been so absurd in my actions, I had to make it up to Pai Pei somehow, and I hope she likes it." Yu Yanmei's face turned red, and then she said, "She's so excited, this girl actually has quite a desire for power, born into royalty." Before she could finish, Li Pei, seeing the two deep in conversation, suddenly came over, clung to Liu Yao's arm, and spoke in a coquettish voice. "My lord, why didn't you say a word to me, you gave me such a fright." "Life needs a bit of surprise," Liu Yao asked with a smile, "so, you're not angry anymore, right? Come on, make up with your master." Li Pei had long since stopped being angry, but making up too abruptly felt too stiff. She was like a child acting out against parents. She cleared her throat with a cough to change the subject. "Among those who pledged allegiance today, many harbored ulterior motives. I have no experience in governing a country, and only feel as though I'm walking on thin ice, cautious and apprehensive." Liu Yao waved his hand grandly, "We were just talking about dealing with the disloyal, we'll handle such matters. You just focus on governing the country. There's nothing new under the sun, history books have already given us the answers, it's just about reducing the burden on the lower classes to allow them to recuperate and prosper, and unifying the upper classes to streamline the collection of grain, and so on. Feel free to go ahead and do what you have to do, your whole family supports you." The Liao family sisters and Yu Yanmei all gathered round, and even the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks joined in on the fun. With her lord by her side and so many experts to support her, what difficulty could there be in this world? Li Pei felt a surge of heroic spirit in her heart, and an abundance of confidence was born, determined to reforge the land and rejuvenate divine land. At that moment, Liu Yao looked at the sky and said, "It's just past noon, I'll go out and extinguish the forces in some remote areas that are not complying." But as soon as the words left his mouth, several sisters objected. Liaoya said, "You just said you were about to break through a realm, better to focus on your cultivation. We'll take care of these trivial matters." Liao Qi chimed in, "We are already in the innate realm, and we have magical treasures with us, we're more than up to the task of dealing with them." Li Pei also said, "You are now a true grandmaster, you shouldn't have to personally attend to everything. We can take care of these so-called powers, and we can also have the Wudang sect and the Imperial Guards clean up parts of them." Yu Yanmei, holding her treasured sword, said, "Just these few spiritual sparrowhawks alone are more than enough to handle many forces." Liu Yao pondered for a moment and said, "That's a good idea, then, you go ahead. Let the spiritual sparrowhawks join the battle as well, to quickly solidify their demon cores." Chapter 472, Riding the Emperor to Command the Feudal Lords. The news that Lord Liu intended to place his wife on the throne spread instantly throughout the entire Jiangnan. But what was even more astonishing was Liu Yao's public stance. All opium and human trafficking were illegal, and all treaties signed with the foreign powers were invalidated. It goes without saying that this would impact countless people's interests, and Lord Liu's domineering and willful behavior was revealed to the extreme. He was an incredibly authoritarian ruler. The outside world was immediately in an uproar. Many people dared not say anything openly, but had the guts to engage in underhanded dealings, and these were substantial. First of all, on the newspapers, the old incident of Wuzation, the hen that crows at dawn during the Tang dynasty, was brought up again, with the clear intention of using the past to satirize the present. Even more so, Jianzhou News blatantly published an article titled "Writing the Emperor to Command the Princes." Although it didn't mention names, the subject of ridicule was crystal clear. This newspaper office, located in the remote Jianzhou, far in the Great Southwest, was the mouthpiece controlled by the local dominant force, the Yungziao sect. Its sect leader, Yang Shanji, had previously ignored Liu Yao's summoning. He was so bold precisely because he relied on the mountains being high and the emperor far away. Between Jianzhou and the imperial city lay countless prefecture governments, a distance of 4,000 miles. Along the way, one did not know how many forces were overtly and covertly opposing Liu Yao. Lord Liu, whom wanted to ride the emperor to command the princes, must be too busy to bother with him at the moment. What could a man surnamed Liu do to me? If he dares, let him fight his way here. Yang Shanji felt he had finally gotten a load off his chest. His sect survived by planting opium on a large scale and engaging in human trafficking. Liu Yao was essentially cutting off the roots of his sect. No wonder this person abhorred him so deeply. However, lately Yang Shanji always felt a bit uneasy, but after much inquiry confirmed that Liu Yao was still in the imperial city. While he breathed a sigh of relief, he simply ordered his sect to tighten security, then continued to indulge in pleasures with his multitude of concubines. What Yang Shanji didn't know was that two ominous stars had already arrived in Qianzhou. At this moment, Li Pei and Yu Yanmei were riding on Ping'an, looking down at the earth below them. It had taken them merely 2 hours to travel from the imperial city. The phrase "riding the emperor to command the princes" made the Liao family sisters laugh until they bent over. Li Pei could not keep a straight face, and put aside all his tasks at hand. Even if it meant going out of his way, he was determined to eliminate this rogue first. However, after riding the spiritual sparrowhawk over, the master and disciple were simultaneously shocked. 80% of the cultivated land here is planted with opium. They could see everything clearly from the sky, and Li Pei found it hard to believe. Although other prefecture governments also grew it, none were this exaggerated. Yu Yanmei said coldly, "Most of these opium fields are controlled by the Green Cloud sect. It's absolutely impossible for them not to have collusions with the government. The governor of Yongyi deserves to die." Li Pei sneered, "It's a good opportunity to deal with them all at once." After finishing their conversation, there was a brief moment of awkward silence before they simultaneously realized. This was the first exchange between master and disciple since that embarrassing incident occurred. An awkward silence followed. Li Pei cleared his throat and spoke solemnly, "Master, let's first level the mountain gate of the Yungziao sect." Yu Yanmei nodded, and gently patted Ping An's neck. The spiritual sparrowhawk spread its wings and flew towards the distinct Yungziao mountain in the distance. The terrain of the entire Yungziao mountain area was relatively flat, with only the main peak soaring abruptly as if to pierce the clouds. Normally, as the leading force in Qianzhou, the surrounding common people should be living well thanks to the presence of the Yungziao sect. But as far as the eye could see, there were only thatched cottages, with commoners gaunt and sallow-faced, displaying numb expressions and barely covering their bodies with dirty, tattered cloths. This place was nothing short of a massive refugee camp. The more remote the area, the less regard these so-called aristocratic clans have, acting wickedly without any need for disguise. The master and apprentice descended grim-faced from the sky, landing at the gate of the Yungziao sect. Li Pei didn't say a word. Instead, he kicked off with a fly kick that exploded the archway inscribed with Yungziao Immortal Realm, sending small and large chunks of stone shooting out. There were 2 disciples guarding the place, clad in blue silk garments, with strong and robust statures. They only managed to utter "Who goes there?" before the flying stones struck them, breaking their muscles and fracturing their bones. The Yungziao sect reacted quickly, with an urgent and mournful air raid siren sounding immediately. Li Pei and her apprentice proceeded along the main path, swaggering inward. They hadn't gone a few hundred meters when they encountered a team coming to intercept them. The leader, an elder of the innate realm, bellowed, "How dare you run wild in the Yungziao sect, you 2 lowlifes are tired of living. Attack!" That said, he stayed put, sending his disciples forward to test the waters. A few disciples of the organ refining and marrow cleansing realm cautiously surrounded them, and Yu Yanmei spoke softly. "With you eating and drinking well every day following Liu Yao, let's see if you've let yourself slack." Li Pei took a deep breath and the next second, with a boom, the ground cratered beneath her feet. She broke through the air at a speed of 300 meters per second, the lightning-fast punch landing squarely on the elder's face. The disciples only felt a strong gust hit their faces, stinging so much they couldn't open their eyes, as if something had flashed by. By the time they came to their senses, their elder had been sent flying backward, smashing into the mountain like a cannonball. Among the thunderous rumbling, rocks of all sizes cracked and rolled down. In the same innate realm, Li Pei benefited from divine manifestations' daily massages, and with plentiful resources, she was far stronger than her opponent. A group of disciples stared at their elder, only his feet now sticking out, and swallowed hard with a gulp. It's the innate realm. The attacker is of the innate realm. Quick, notify the sect leader. Inform the supreme elder. The group cried and screamed as they fled backward, but Li Pei easily caught up with them, punching each one so hard they flew off and smashed against the rocks, rolling down motionless. Yu Yanmei raised an eyebrow and praised, "Not bad, you've truly perfected the core skill of our section." "The star-plucking body, you've been teaching me since I was 6, replied Li Pei, taking the lead and continuing their journey, speaking over her shoulder to her master, "I've practiced it for years, it's engraved deep in my bones." Yu Yanmei followed behind her disciple, looking at her splendid back that seemed even more charming than the verdant mountains all around. By this time, the two had reached the mountainside where they saw layers of greenery and mist entwined, a scene straight out of a realm of immortals. Yu Yanmei whispered, "Pai Pei, I'm sorry." At her words, Li Pei paused in her steps, turned around, and said, "I don't blame you anymore. If there's someone to blame, it's Liu Yao, that big lecher. Offering gold and magical treasures, you're just a woman after all, how could you resist?" Yu Yanmei blushed, looking down without a word. Li Pei leaned in, putting her arm around her master's, and continued, "It's actually for the best. It's better that you didn't give away your affections to another man. I wouldn't be able to let you go." Yu Yanmei's face turned even redder as she quietly retorted, "It's not that I'm marrying Liu Yao, it's just, borrowing him once a month." "Master, once is certainly not enough," said Li Pei. As the master and disciple made conversation passing a valley, suddenly many disciples from the Yungziao sect appeared on the mountain tops on either side. They had actually set up large cannons, as well as heavy machine guns and autocannons. Chapter 473, Divine Sword Tie. Li Pei and Yu Yanmei were the first to notice these people. There were about 500 of them, all clad in the azure silk attire of the Yungziao sect. They set up their guns and loaded their ammunition, ready to open fire. The master and disciple remained unperturbed, and the next second, Pingan descended from the sky. It moved so fast its form was a blur, like a vague shadow dashing past the cliff in a flash of lightning. The Yungziao sect disciples had no time to react, only feeling a chill as they looked down to see a huge gash that revealed their innards. With Pingan's sharp claws and the lethal feathers on its wings, they were sliced open, and screams filled the air in an instant. After swiftly sweeping over them, Pingan circled back with a flap of its wings. This time its movements were even more forceful. With a body slam, it sent 2 organ-refining realm gunners, along with a 12-ton cannon, flying tens of meters away. With a single flap of its wings, a blood exchange warrior spat blood and fell to the ground, unable to rise, with broken bones protruding from his body. A few quick-witted ones took the opportunity to man their heavy machine guns and madly spray Pingan with bullets. And a Yungziao sect true disciple, who had reached blood exchange and spirit refinement, picked up a Vickers 2-pounder autocannon and pulled the trigger. In the roaring gunfire, metal projectiles of various sizes whistled towards Pingan, causing a clinking sound and sparks to fly all around it. But that was all, as all the attacks were blocked by its feathers. These feathers were tougher than metal, capable of injuring innate realm martial artists even without processing. The enemy's machine guns and cannons couldn't breach its defenses. The 40mm autocannon did seem to hurt Pingan a bit, but it also aroused its ferocity. Pingan, with a wingspan of 8 meters and a body length of 4 meters, charged forward with a single flap of its wings. With a deafening crash, 8 Yungziao disciples operating the heavy machine guns, along with various other debris, were struck flying as high as a 10-story building, spewing blood madly mid-air. A few unlucky ones even screamed as they fell off the cliff. After that, Pingan turned its attention to the spirit refiner manning the autocannon. Knowing he couldn't outfly a spirit bird, he just kept firing furiously by holding down the trigger. Unfortunately, this could not change his fate. He was struck by a vicious peck from Pingan, and his upper body was obliterated. Next, Pingan, caught up in the thrill of the kill, fully awakened its ancient instincts, and under its sharp claws and beak, countless souls were added to the death toll. In less than 5 minutes, the Yungziao sect's private armed force lying in ambush in the valley was completely annihilated. Li Pei and Yu Yanmei came over to check carefully and confirmed that Ping'an was almost unharmed, without a single scratch. Even the blood of its enemies couldn't stick to its sleek feathers, which fell away under the force of gravity. A blood exchange realm spirit bird this formidable, its frontal combat prowess is no less than that of an innate grandmaster. In ancient times, these were great enemies of the human race, many towns were destroyed by them. Especially the flying ones caused incredible headaches. The duo admired this magical creature in front of them. Ping'an, with its large eyes, looked here and there, finding the master's spouse quite to its liking. At this moment, Yu Yanmei commented, "The energy and resources invested in it are like a bottomless pit." Li Pei nodded, "The expenditure is indeed unimaginable to common folks, but Liu Yao no longer cares, he treats these 3 little ones as family. This time he even let us bring this thing out." As she spoke, Li Pei opened her collar and pulled out a peculiar blood core from her tightly secured bosom. It wasn't very large, similar in size to a duck's egg, but it pulsed as if alive. A Duke-level blood core, Yu Yanmei immediately recognized it. Is this one of those 3 from the coalition forces of the Great Powers invasion before? Li Pei replied, "That's right, the Lord commanded us to feed it to the spiritual sparrowhawk when the time is right. Taking them out this time also includes letting them gain experience. With this thing, reaching the innate realm should be within easy reach for the 3 little ones." Yu Yanmei tenderly stroked Ping'an, filled with anticipation. Once a spirit bird of innate realm produces a demon core, who knows what changes may occur. Thereafter, the 2 and their feathered companion headed straight to the main hall of the Yungziao sect. By now, less than 20 minutes had passed since they had stormed the sect's gate. The Yungziao sect had reacted quite swiftly, with sect leader Yang Shanji and the Supreme Elder already joining forces to defend against the formidable enemy. Both of their expressions looked rather grim. The unkind intruders had breached the sect's defensive power within just a quarter of an hour and made a direct assault on the main hall. Yang Shanji had hardly had time to exchange a few words with the Supreme Elder when he saw 2 women approaching from afar. Being an innate realm cultivator himself, his pupils contracted and he instantly recognized the newcomers, his heart skipping a beat. "It's that devil Liu Yao's women." Then his expression turned fierce, "With just 2 people they dare to come here. They really think our Yungziao sect is a pushover." He immediately said to the Supreme Elder, "Great Uncle Master, please try to capture these 2 women alive later." The Supreme Elder nodded without a trace of emotion on his face. He appeared very old, like a man in his 70s. Martial artists above the innate realm only began to age rapidly during the last 20 years of their lives, so this elder must have been no spring chicken. But upon closer inspection, one could occasionally see a glimmer of golden light flash across his exposed skin, carrying a subtle sense of indestructibility. This was none other than a half-step golden body, and also the Yungziao sect's trump card. It seems that the wealth and treasures looted by the Yungziao sect have been spent here. Li Pei and her disciple Yu Yanmei arrived at a group of buildings that epitomized extravagance, with ornate beams and painted rafters. This place was a stark contrast to the shanty town at the base of the mountain, reflecting rather poorly on the sect's image. In the distance, Yang Shanji suddenly let out a furious shout. "Liu Yao dares to take our Yungziao sect for an easy target, but he is gravely mistaken. All disciples, obey my command and, together with the Supreme Elder, capture these 2 demonesses. Let us set an example for all the heroes in the world." Disciples obey the command. Nearly 1,000 Yungziao sect disciples, led by the higher-ups, arrayed themselves in battle formation, morale soaring. In their hearts was only their master and sect, as they believed. The sect was their everything. Meanwhile, the Supreme Elder concealed his presence, his aura nearly undetectable, soon to strike with the swift ferocity of a thunderclap, ambushing to seize the enemy. The situation was on a knife edge. Just as Yang Shanji was preparing to command his disciples to engage in combat, aiming to deplete the stamina of the 2 women, he suddenly saw the opponents pull out something. The next second, the usually composed Supreme Elder revealed a look of horror, and without saying another word, he turned and fled. But before he got far, everyone present suddenly felt as though a mountain bore down upon them, about to force them to their knees. It turned out Yu Yanmei had unsheathed the divine sword Tai. The domineering sword radiated a brilliant light, initiating a wave of mental suppression. The glow grew increasingly brighter, and Yu Yanmei seemed to be holding a column of light that reached up to the heavens, slashing directly towards the strongest enemy detected by her divine sense perception. The Yungziao sect's supreme elder. The old man no longer hid his cultivation, the will of indestructibility within him soared to a climax as he bellowed fiercely and broke free from the suppression, his fists exploding through the air with a thunderous strike. The outcome of such a clash was indeed hard to predict, considering Yu Yanmei was not exerting her own strength but forcefully propelling it with the wish power and mind force infused by Liu Yao. But at the same time, Li Pei also activated the Imperial Jade Seal. The thoughts of the Yungziao sect's people were instantly fixed in place, as if several seconds had been stolen from their lives. The Supreme Elder, with his profound cultivation, was only momentarily dazed, but it was enough. Heaven-sent sword light descended, and amidst a boom similar to a muffled thunder, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. The divine sword Tai blasted a terrifying trench into the ground nearly 100 meters long, 5 meters wide, and 10 meters deep. The Supreme Elder didn't even have time to let out a scream before he was instantly reduced to fragments, mingling with the countless shards of stone and dust that filled the air. Chapter 474, Falling one after another. How could it be so powerful? Yu Yanmei herself was startled, not expecting the divine sword to unleash such tremendous power once its restraint was lifted. Moreover, she could launch such an attack 2 more times. She cautiously sheathed the sword, deciding not to use it lightly again. At this moment, everyone from Yungziao sect, even if they hadn't been immobilized by the Imperial Jade Seal, were now staring blankly, utterly horrified. After the dust settled, a terrifying scar was visible on the ground. Even the splendid complex of halls suffered, with countless buildings collapsing, turning into ruins and rubble. In addition, over 200 poorly positioned disciples met a tragic end, accompanying the Supreme Elder in death. Magical, magical, magical treasure. Although Yungziao sect had begun in the previous dynasty and its foundation was not profound, anyone who had seen illustrations of such things recognized a magical treasure at a glance. The disciples who had been in formation and high-spirited instantly felt a chill, subconsciously looking to the sect leader for a decision. It's better to resolve enmities rather than harbor them, wouldn't it be better to sit down and talk? This glance was significant, as the crowd suddenly realized. Yang Shanji had run off at some point. Amidst nearly 1,000 people, not one had noticed. He actually thought to escape, which was wishful thinking indeed. Not to mention that Li Pei and his disciples were known for their agility, Ping'an was also in the sky, making the scene a true incarnation of no escape even with wings. In less than a mile, Yang Shanji was discovered by Ping'an and intercepted in a dive. Beast! Get out of my way! His escape route being interfered with, he instantly became furious, turning around to bombard Ping'an with both fists. Yang Shanji had a clever plan. This strike would not only fend off the interception but also use the force of the collision to accelerate himself further. His fists exploded through the air, making a bang sound, accompanied by a ring of white shockwaves bursting forth. Facing the enemy's tactical counterattack, a barely perceptible slyness flashed in Ping'an's fierce eyes as it surprisingly caught the enemy's fists with its large paws. This was somewhat unwise, but fortunately, it shook off most of the force with a flicker of its sinews and feathers. Then, with a grip of its claws and a flap of its wings, it astonishingly took Yang Shanji into the high skies. This development threw Yang Shanji into a panic. At the end of the day, a martial artist needs solid ground to exert force, and being in mid-air turned him into a sitting duck. Liaoya had repeatedly warned Liu Yao about this during his organ refining process, not to leave the ground lightly. Yang Shanji understood this, of course, so he fought desperately with punches and kicks, struggling wildly. But Ping'an was, strictly speaking, a monster beast, with a physique far stronger than humans. It barely felt pain despite the blows and suffered no significant damage apart from ruffled feathers. It held its opponent up to an altitude of 10,000 meters and suddenly released its claws. Yang Shanji immediately began free-falling, his face showing despair. This was the realm of a fierce bird. Subsequently, Ping'an, like a streak of white lightning, repeatedly swooped past the clumsily flailing enemy in mid-air. With each pass, sparks flew visibly, and the harsh clang of metal striking sounded. Ping'an was relentlessly attacking with its sharp talons and beak, dissipating Yang Shanji's protective true qi in just 3 strikes. Finally, amid his hopeless roars, Ping'an folded its wings, its body plunging down like an arrowhead, reaching an astonishing speed of 1,100 km per hour and elegantly streaking past the enemy as a beam of white light. In the blink of an eye, Yang Shanji, who had been struggling to survive in mid-air, was now headless. The space above his shoulders empty. At this point, only 2 minutes had passed. Li Pei and Yu Yanmei had also dealt with the remaining enemies, and just as they looked up, they saw Ping'an elegantly descending with the head of the gang leader in its talons. Though Ping'an was slightly injured, it now crowed proudly and contentedly, its neck stretched high. What a clever little fellow! Yu Yanmei couldn't hide the affection in her heart and immediately approached to channel a stream of true qi into it. Brave, cunning, loyal, it's no wonder that many countries and nations have adopted it as their totem. Li Pei took out the blood core from his chest again and said, defeating a powerful enemy with high fighting spirit, this is exactly the time to consume this item. Ping'an looked at the blood core in Li Pei's hand and let out a soft chirp, its eyes showing an intense longing. Li Pei immediately fed the Duke-level blood core to it. No more than 10 seconds after ingestion, a flame tinged with the color of blood rose from the body of the spiritual sparrowhawk. Let Ping'an absorb it well, let's clean up the battlefield. These forces really think they're lawless because the emperor is far away. I wonder how the Liao family sisters are doing. But things were much simpler for the Liao family sisters. At that moment, they were in Ganzhou, eliminating a gang known as the Poyang Gang. Like most nefarious forces, the gang engaged in all sorts of wicked deeds, opium trade, human trafficking, extortion, you name it. Having had their main business banned by Liu Yao offhandedly, they undoubtedly bore a grudge in their hearts. The Liao family sisters didn't show any mercy, attacking directly. Unfortunately for the Poyang Gang, aside from being wealthy, they couldn't compare to the Yungziao sect in any other aspect, not even mustering a decent defense. Liao Ya and Liao Qi barely had to lift a finger, as Ji Xiang and Ru Yi alone wiped them out. At this moment, the gang's headquarters were engulfed in thick smoke and flames, with cries of slaughter and shouts of alarm coming from all sides. Suddenly, a giant spiritual sparrowhawk swooped down from the sky, collapsing a luxurious mansion and stirring up a cloud of dust. That was the main hall of the gang, and the people inside screamed as they fled, only to be picked off one by another spiritual sparrowhawk that swooped down from above. The two spiritual sparrowhawks, Ji Xiang and Ru Yi, had turned into merciless demolition machines, destroying dwellings and killing the hiding mid to high-ranking members of the Poyang Gang one after another. The Liao family sisters stood aloof on high ground, watching all this emotionlessly. When the grounds were nothing but a sea of flames, Liao Ya spoke, that should be enough, let's move on to the next place. Liao Qi pulled out a piece of paper and crossed out the Poyang Gang's name. With 3 places already struck through on the paper, it meant they had eradicated 3 forces. The Liao family sisters, although slightly less powerful as a group, was no less efficient. Liao Ya waved to recall the 2 spiritual sparrowhawks that had gotten into the swing of killing and was about to leave the area. Just then, a wave of fluctuation came from the magical treasure that Liao Qi carried. The Madame Su's dagger. Following that, Liu Yao's voice was transmitted, is everything going smoothly? Through the mind force in the magical treasure, he could project his thoughts remotely and unleash a full-force strike. This was indeed the biggest trump card for the sisters. Liao Qi replied in her sweet voice, it's very smooth, we've wiped out several gangs up to no good. Are you causing commotion in the territory of the Governor-General of Liangzhong? And Lu Kunyi has shown no response. People from the governor's mansion haven't shown up at all. Then let's not bother with him for now. Head to the Joyful Sect's main temple in Linen. Joyful Sect? Yes, the holy maiden Yun Qinglan of the Joyful Sect has asked for help, go give her a hand to secure her position as sect master. Having been helped quite a bit by the scriptures Yun Qinglan had sent in the past, the sisters didn't have a good impression of the Joyful Sect but weren't against offering assistance. So they agreed at once, leave it to us. It's just right, we haven't really taken much action along the way, and it's a good opportunity to test the power of the magical treasures. Chapter 475, Lady Su's Dagger. The joyful Bodhisattva died in the Qinling underground palace, and Yun Qinglan returned immediately, quickly consolidating the power of her master's lineage and firmly grasping the sect's secret vault in her hands. Moreover, she herself was a 19-year-old innate, truly a prodigy. With the backing of Lord Liu, it was natural she became the hottest candidate for the sect master's succession. Her advantage was tremendous, and Yun Qinglan felt confident of her victory. But after all, she was too young and lacked experience in struggle. She hadn't even succeeded as sect master yet when she impatiently revealed her stance to undertake sweeping reforms. First, she banned the teaching of the highest realm of Jade Maiden's scripture, the celestial transformation, offending several of the elders. Then, in an effort to please Liu Yao, she gave away numerous scriptures, causing widespread dissatisfaction. Finally, to curry favor with Liu Yao, she proposed to ban the business of trading human lives, leading the already estranged elder Duan's Higi to decide on a risky maneuver. Thus, the holy maiden, who had been dealt a good hand, ended up in a situation where she was abandoned by all. And she was completely unaware. This day, Yun Qinglan summoned the joyful sect's senior members to finalize the succession of sect master, a matter weighing heavily on her heart. Early in the morning, everyone had arrived to give face, with more than 20 bodhisattvas and elders present. In the joyful sect, female senior members were called bodhisattvas, while males were referred to as elders. Men could not become the sect master, but they had the right to vote. At this moment, the scene had a somewhat chaotic air, with the elders dressed normally, while a few bodhisattvas wore so little fabric that it wouldn't be enough to make a mask, creating an atmosphere of smoke-shrouded seduction and scandal. Only Yun Qinglan, dressed in a white gown floating like a fairy, had dazzlingly beautiful and white feet beneath her skirt. At this moment, she sat on the taishi chair with her legs crossed, playfully wriggling her toes while she spoke. It is not a solution for the position of sect master to remain vacant for so long. I urgently called you all here today to resolve this matter once and for all. Although Qinglan is not talented, I am confident in leading the joyful sect to create a new enterprise and glorify the sect. She spoke with passion and fervor, but everyone stood expressionless, and not a single person stepped forward to support her. Duan's Higi stared unwaveringly at her delicate and fair feet, and with a false smile, said, "Niece, I feel you are not suitable to be the sect master." Yun Qinglan saw the obviously wrong atmosphere in the hall and frowned. Elder Duan seems to have some objections. Of course, I have objections. Duan's Higi stood up indignantly. The sect is ours, not something for you to use to beg for favors shamelessly. Yun Qinglan scoffed, he is a divine manifestation true lord, what's wrong with me trying to please him? Duan's Higi sneered without saying a word, and a bodhisattva stood up and said, Qinglan, in our sect, we value the most private under heaven, the supreme indifference to emotion, where one must forget emotion through emotion. Now, you are throwing yourself at him, and yet after meeting 3 or 4 times, you are still a virgin. It is inappropriate for your eager face to chase after his cold indifference. This bodhisattva had a bosom broad as a dairy cow's, with only 2 peony-shaped pendants fixed at 2 points. Yun Qinglan heard her words and her complexion changed. Wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva, you also oppose me. This wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva, who was in charge of teaching martial arts, was a highly prestigious person in the sect. Today's matters would probably not end well. Duan's Higi said coldly. Today, with everyone present, we are to elect the true sect master, rather than a shameless person, who takes the foundation of her own home to flatter and please outsiders. Afterward, he raised his hand towards the wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva and said, Sister Wonderful Dharma, with your hard work and high prestige, is the most suitable candidate for sect master. The people present showed no surprise and expressed their agreement one after another. Yun Qinglan sensed trouble and hurriedly took out the walnut given to her by Liu Yao, shouting, Lord Lu's token is here. I've already won his favor. With his protection, why worry that the sect will not flourish? This walnut shimmered faintly. A sure sign it was a mind resonance item of a spirit refiner. The wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva spoke with a smile and ease. Qinglan, your mindset is off, you completely place yourself beneath him, begging pathetically. If you become the sect master, I'm afraid the entire sect will end up in someone else's hands. It's better for me to take care of the joyful sect. You should step down and let a more capable person take over. Duan's Higi revealed an intense look of greed, like a person who had gone hungry for 3 days suddenly seeing food. Niece apprentice, the situation has come to this. I advise you to hand over the sect's secret vault obediently, and let's not make this too ugly. Only the sect master was qualified to enter the joyful sect's secret vault, and of course, Yun Qinglan would not hand it over. She knew full well that once she lost her power, she would inevitably become a furnace for Duan's Higi's cultivation, to be harvested until death. Luckily, as soon as she saw trouble brewing, she had already sought help from Liu Yao using the walnut, and now she needed to stall for time. But the wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva had already seen through the young girl's thoughts and spoke in a calm and unhurried manner. Lord Liu won't make it in time, and even if he does arrive, I'll make him an offer he can't refuse. After she finished speaking, she gently touched her chest, and immediately, her bosom surged tumultuously. Both of Lord Lu's women are like this, he must have a particular fondness for it. So, Kinglin, no matter how you try to please him, it's useless. Only I can make him indulge in the sea of desires. Having all her moves anticipated by the opponent, Yoon Kinglin became somewhat flustered, and she quickly turned to the bodhisattvas and elders of her master's lineage for support. But these people all avoided her gaze, leaving only Duan's Hegi with a lustful expression staring intently at her. Give up, niece apprentice. You should know best that those who eagerly lick boots are the ones least valued. He slowly approached, joining the wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva and others in subtly encircling Yoon Kinglin to prevent her from fleeing. The token to open the sect's secret vault must be on you. Let your uncle master have a search. Just as Duan's Hegi and his group were about to act, two piercing screeches tore through the sky. Everyone present changed their expression, while Yoon Kinglin's face lit up with ecstasy. They've come so fast. She had seen the spiritual sparrowhawk several times before and recognized it immediately. But the next second, the smile on her face froze as she saw that the ones riding the spiritual sparrowhawk were two women. It's the Liao family sisters. Why did they come? Yoon Kinglin felt bitter inside. At this time, two innate level individuals were of no use. The two sisters leaped down from the back of the spiritual sparrowhawk, landing directly in the midst of the crowd. Liao Ye, with an expression full of disdain, pointed at Duan's Hegi. Is this lecherous-looking man the enemy? Duan's Hegi's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and he instinctively used the technique of observing beauty, utterly shocked in his heart. Such extreme beauties existed in the world, and there were two of them. He made a decision in a flash of light in his eyes: capture these two beauties alive and hand them over to Lord Yuan to deal with. But before he could act, Liao Kui raised her hand, and in an instant, a rainbow light shot out. Duan's Hegi, relying on his innate realm martial intuition, barely shifted his body, only to then feel a chill at his shoulder. He didn't even see what injured him before he lost a hand. The wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva waved her hands, and immediately a pink fog rolled in like a tide covering the sky and land. But a rainbow light flashed by, and suddenly there was a teacup-sized transparent hole in the middle of her forehead. It took a few seconds before she fell to the ground, her face full of confusion. At this point, the people in the field hadn't even reacted to what happened and two innates were already dead. It was Yoon Kinglin, the one with the highest spirit refining stage cultivation, who saw clearly what Liao Kui held in her hand. A thin, willow leaf-shaped dagger. This was exactly Madame Su's dagger, very much in line with the killer style of the other world. Fast, accurate, ruthless. The speed was so fast that even innate martial artists couldn't react. One could lose their life in the blink of an eye without making a sound. Magical treasure! Yoon Kinglin couldn't help but exclaim in shock, and the others present also realized that the newcomers were actually carrying a magical treasure. Chapter 476, Another Timeline's Liao Ye. At this moment, witnessing the death of the wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva, a crowd of elders and bodhisattvas showed shocked expressions on their faces, retreating one after another. Duan Zhigui, who had lost one hand, also got up in a sorry state and shouted from within the crowd. Yoon Kinglin! You collude with outsiders to bully your own sect members. Do you really intend to hand over the joyful sect's foundation of thousands of years so easily? Yoon Kinglin had already recovered her senses, and proclaimed in her fluttering white clothes. Ridiculous! Can't you see even now that following Lord Lu, the revival of the Holy Gate is just around the corner? I refuse to believe that this girl's magical treasure can be used without any limits. Duan Zhigui's face turned vicious as he incited, fellow sect members, today is a matter of life and death for the Holy Gate. Together, let's get rid of this traitor and take back the secret treasury. After he spoke, he, along with 3 resolute bodhisattvas and elders, released a huge amount of pink fog. These fogs merged with each other and, combined with those released by the wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva before his death, gradually spread across the entire arena. Seeing that direct confrontation would lead to heavy casualties, they had actually resorted to using poison. This was a secret medicine that ignited the fire of desire in a martial artist's body, triggering primal instincts deep within human genes, making it very difficult to resist. Yoon Kinglin quickly reminded, hold your breath. Seal your aperture points. The sisters both wore ice jade bracelets, and the refreshing coolness instantly swept through their bodies, rendering the medicine useless. Moreover, the 2 spiritual sparrowhawks descended from the sky, flapping their wings fiercely mid-air. An instant whirlwind arose on the field, lifting sand and stones. The heavy wooden tables and chairs, as if made of paper, were blown into the air. Even the ground was scraped off a layer, and the dense fog and charm medicine were instantly dissipated without a trace. Liaoya and Liao Qi couldn't help but praise, beautifully done. It should be noted that no one instructed Ji Xiang and Ru Yi to do this, it was entirely an initiative of their own. Truly a display of their intelligence. After that, Liaoya took out her jade Xian bird statue and said coldly, Yun Qinglan, it seems your subordinates don't listen very well. It's better to get rid of them all. Liao Qi's people lady dagger in her hand also began to swallow and emit light, ready to strike. The members of the joyful sect were terrified, some already started to look towards Yun Qinglan, wanting to say something. Yun Qinglan certainly didn't want to end up a commander without any soldiers, as the large sect would surely fall apart. She looked serious and shouted to the assembly of bodhisattvas and elders first. Fellow sect members, you have merely been deceived by a villain, this was not your intention. You simply need to follow me and execute these 4 traitors, and I, Yun Qinglan, hereby swear before the ancestors of our section your past transgressions will be forgiven. Between life and death, making a choice is very easy, especially with the way out provided by Yun Qinglan. Consequently, everyone circled around Duan Zhigui and the other 3. Even those who were reluctant stepped aside. Duan Zhigui howled, I am Grandmaster Yuan's confidant. Who dares to touch me? Liao Qi scoffed, Grandmaster Yuan? Lu Yao will soon annihilate him. Yun Qinglan ordered, act. With that, she led the charge against Duan Zhigui. New hatred and old resentment surged in her heart, making her attacks exceptionally vicious. Without an arm, Duan Zhigui couldn't fend off her attacks. He quickly depleted his true qi under the joint attack and screamed in pain from the heavy blows. The other 3 met the same fate, only wounded but not killed. They seemed intent on capturing them alive. But sparing their lives was not out of kindness. According to the rules of the joyful sect, the victors would take from the losers. Amidst the chaos, Liao Qi stroked the cool and smooth people lady dagger and marveled. Such great power, but the consumption is terrifying. And there is a bit of delay. Liaoya showed an expression that implied this was to be expected, saying, our cultivation is not enough. Using brother's power to activate the magical treasure, we obviously can't be as adept. Practice well, strive to control it by ourselves one day. Liao Qi felt troubled, the initial stages of spirit refinement are tough, even with enough cultivation, one still needs that moment of enlightenment, which is troublesome. Liaoya, touching the ice jade bracelet on her wrist, softly reminded her sister. Haste makes waste. We're not short on resources, the opportunity will come eventually. Liao Qi nodded in agreement, then asked, aren't you going to try out your own magical treasure, sister? Liaoya said in a gentle voice. The situation is well in hand, there's no need for me to act. Better to save my strength and cause less trouble for my junior brother. By now, the dust had settled on the scene. Duan Zhigi and 3 others were successively knocked to the ground. Yun Qinglan emerged victorious, piercing the prisoners' peepa bones with steel nails to completely restrain them. Amidst the praise of her fellow disciples, she gloriously assumed the position of sect master. She generously released 2 of the prisoners, keeping only Duan Zhigi and another bodhisattva who had opposed her several times. Liaoya knew what these prisoners would face next and grew increasingly disdainful of the joyful sect, her face betraying a trace of disgust. And the thought of nearly having joined them herself sent a shiver of fear through her. In her youth, when a bodhisattva of the joyful sect took a fancy to her and wanted to take her away, her mother quietly let her escape. At this thought, Liaoya's resentment towards Madame Xiao lessened slightly. She then recalled the warm moments spent with her mother in childhood, and a myriad of thoughts surged to her heart, blurring her vision. It was at this moment that something marvelous happened. Through the haze, Liaoya saw a woman who looked exactly like herself standing not far away. Though the image was fuzzy, she could still make out that the woman was dressed as a bodhisattva of the joyful sect, with large enticing whiteness at her chest, barely covered by tasseled pasties, and a seductive expression on her face. In the profound depths of her heart, Liaoya suddenly knew who this was. Is this another fate of mine? At the joyful sect's main temple, leveraging the state of spirit refinement, firmness and the resonance of emotions, Liaoya actually saw another version of herself from a different timeline. This astonishing scene left her somewhat stunned. The salaciousness of her own appearance as a bodhisattva contrasted greatly with reality, giving rise to a feeling that the ways of the world are unpredictable. Life is like a play, the will of heaven unpredictable. Liaoya murmured softly with her eyelids lowered, a tumult of emotions in her heart. But she was, after all, a woman of unwavering determination. In a few breaths' time, Liao Ye's eyes regained their clear brightness. Fate is tortuous, and truly not something one can control. I can't control fate, but I can control myself. My fate is not in heaven's hands, but my own. She looked calmly at the version of herself from another timeline, and the woman disappeared into the air. With a long sigh of relief, Liao Ye had gone through a rare journey of introspection and felt her mind was extraordinarily clear. The next second, her thoughts soared immeasurably, and she found herself looking down on everything in the field from a third-person perspective. This experience lasted only for an instant, but for Liao Ye, it felt as long as several hours. At that moment, Liao Qi suddenly noticed something off about her sister. Although she was standing right there, she couldn't be sensed, and there was an ethereal and clear feeling about her, as if she was riding the wind away. "Sister, you," Liao Qi exclaimed with wide eyes in surprise, "you have forgotten yourself in meditation." Liao Ye nodded, smiling contentedly and said, "Yes, I had an epiphany." "Liao Qi." She immediately grabbed her sister's arm and shook it. "How did you have an epiphany? Teach me quickly." No wonder she was anxious. After forgetting oneself in meditation and rising to a higher realm, one could manifest the power of mind force to wield magical treasures. The reduced consumption was a secondary benefit, the main advantage was that there would be no delay in activating magical treasures, responding to thought as readily as one's own limbs. But Liao Ye was also helpless, spreading her hands and saying with a sense of resignation. Everyone's hearts and thoughts are different, and their perceptions of the world are even more divergent. You can't use my experience. That's how it was, and Liao Qi pouted enviously. Liao Ye patted her sister's head, comforting her, "Don't worry, it's only a matter of time." By now, Yun Qinglin had already dealt with the sex affairs and came over respectfully. Chapter 477, Private Collection. Yun Qinglin knelt down gracefully, saying respectfully, "Many thanks to the two sisters for saving my life. Qinglin is eternally grateful. In the future, whether climbing a mountain of sorts or descending into a sea of flames, I will comply with any dispatch." Liao Ye did not favor this girl and said solemnly, "We came to assist by our husband's command. Now that there is no further trouble here, we shall take our leave." Yun Qinglin quickly spoke, "Sisters, please wait, there are some matters to discuss with you." She kicked at Duan's Higi, who lay at her feet like a dead dog, and said, "This wretch has defected to Grandmaster Yuan and controls many spies. Now that he's in my hands, these spies can also serve Lord Lu and be put to significant use." The joyful sect had planted their informants in the households of many important figures, mostly attractive female disciples who gleaned information through whispered words from the pillow side. Both Yuan Kaishan's and Lu Kunyi's residences had such spies. Liao Ye nodded slightly, her impression of Yun Qinglin improving. This holy maiden of the joyful sect was more than just a flirtatious figure. But Yun Qinglin had more to say. She glanced at Duan's Higi, who had lost even his ability to speak, her face showing a trace of cruelty as she said, "Within the month, I will bring this wretch before Lord Lu to present a generous gift as thanks for his kindness. As for the details, please allow Qinglin to keep you in suspense." Though somewhat curious, Liao Ye did not press further. "If that's the case, do as you see fit, we shall leave now. Why are the sisters in such a hurry? Why not let Qinglin show some hospitality first?" Yun Qinglin flirted mildly, striving earnestly to leave a good impression on the true master's ladies. Unfortunately, the Liao family sisters had preconceptions against the joyful sect and did not wish to linger. With a cold wave of her hand, Liao Ye was about to mount the spiritual sparrowhawk and leave. Yun Qinglin's mind raced, knowing that the sisters must have been greatly favored to even have magical treasures. Ordinary items would surely not catch their eyes, so it had to be. The holy maiden quickly spoke, her thoughts decided, "The two sisters saved me from danger, and Qinglin must certainly repay you. Our sect treasures many items for ensuring favor. Would you be interested?" Ensuring favor. Upon hearing this term often found in illustrated books, Liao Qi's interest was piqued, and her pace slowed. Yun Qinglin chuckled, "Men of the world always seek novelty and grow tired of the old. We women must have some tricks up our sleeves to keep their hearts tied to us." Seeing her sister already walking over to her, Liao Ye frowned and said, "Liao Qi, come back here. Just have a look." Liao Qi waved her hand casually and followed Yun Qinglin. Liao Ye reluctantly followed, her own curiosity also piqued. The three women entered an exquisitely decorated boudoir. As soon as Liaoya stepped in, she blushed and spat, vulgar. The room was filled with indecent garments and jewelry, all designed to accentuate the beauty of a woman's body. There were also implements that clearly were not decent at all, which Liaoya, being rather conservative, simply could not accept, and she quickly retreated. While Liao Qi was also embarrassed, she was more interested in ensuring favor and securing Liu Yao's heart. Yun Qinglan pulled out a delicate box from a corner with a reluctant look on her face. It contained tactics she had intended to use herself, but now, to ingratiate herself with Liao Qi, she couldn't afford to keep them. Those outside are mere vulgarities, this box contains my personal treasures. As the box opened, it revealed many peculiar items. For example, underwear made with just a few thin silver chains, a breast paste once worn by the wonderful Dharma Bodhisattva, and so on. Liao Qi curiously picked them up and flipped through them, her cheeks flushing red. Yun Qinglan ignored these items and instead retrieved some exceptionally thin and elastic stockings, surprisingly colored silk stockings. These are new products from the DuPont company, made of a material called nylon, exquisitely designed. They will undoubtedly become fashionable very quickly. Yun Qinglan slowly stretched the stockings, saying, Sister Liao's legs and feet are without flaw, and her figure is of the finest quality. Wearing these will surely make Lord Liu unable to keep his hands off you. Liao Qi's eyes shone bright, seemingly envisioning Liu Yao drooling as he gazed at her, her heart swelling with joy. Her gaze towards Yun Qinglan softened, and she complimented, Not bad, you've shown consideration. I'll take the items then. Yun Qinglan pushed the entire box toward her, smiling broadly, Sister, please take it all. When I find something better, I'll send it to you. Liao Qi, holding a box larger than her backpack, waved goodbye to Yun Qinglan and flew into the sky on the back of the spiritual sparrowhawk. Liaoya looked at the box and reached out to touch it. What's inside? Let me see. Liao Qi did not stop her, handing it over generously but reminded, this was a gift to me, you can only look, okay. They're all vulgar things, who would care for them? Liaoya spat disdainfully, but still opened the box curiously. Blushing at the sight of the myriad treasures inside, her face turned even redder when she spotted something familiar. The glazed breast paste. In a previous moment of enlightenment, her other self had worn this, barely covering the crucial points with 2 tassels dangling below, extremely seductive and debauched. Liaoya was momentarily entranced. Just then, Liu Yao contacted Liao Qi through the magical treasure, instructing them to return home. Watching her sister's attention fully occupied by her beloved, Liaoya stealthily hid the breast paste without any noticeable movement. The box contained many items, and the absence of one went entirely unnoticed. Meanwhile, it wasn't only Liu Yao's women who were on the move. The Wudang sect also mobilized in full force, directly targeting the Li Mountain sect. This sect was quite interesting, controlled by one of the Empress Dowager's 2 eunuchs. Ndihe. It was originally meant to survey the mausoleum of the first emperor. After the death of the Empress Dowager, Ndihe disappeared, living incognito here. He had gone unnoticed until his resentment stopped him from responding to Liu Yao's call. The Wudang sect investigated and discovered some clues. Zhang Yunxia needed a feat to prove himself, so he led the sect's elite to launch an attack. No more words were needed, the sects clashed on the spot. However, the style of the Wudang sect starkly differed from that of the other martial arts sects. One saw the Wudang sect's eldest senior brother controlling a mecha, taking heavy strides at the forefront. Upon seeing anything that moved, he would immediately operate the Gatling gun to fire. Behind him were a few junior brothers clad in battle armor. Their .50 caliber machine guns were equally lethal. The Li Mountain sect's territory resonated with gunfire, intense flames, and the heat of bullets left trails of fire, creating a large net that enveloped this ancient and quaint mountain town. Countless disciples, whether charging or defending their position, were reduced to a blood mist, completely outmatched. Zhang Yunxia was very pleased, this way, their own casualties were negligible. He gave a grand wave of his hand, charge together. Behind him, a blood exchange realm elder operating another mecha immediately took action, delivering the Li Mountain sect a final blow. Under the barrage of the Gatling gun, the Li Mountain sect disciples turned to dust, their buildings instantly riddled like honeycombs and collapsing one after another. The eunuch Ndihe could no longer hide, bellowing, "This is too much." He then charged towards the mecha controlled by the eldest senior brother, intending to dismantle it with his bare hands. However, Zhang Yunxia had been waiting for him without acting. With composure, he waved his hand, and a sealing stamp whistled through the air. The Aswanya seal of peace. Ndihe twisted midair, allowing the seal to futilely pass by his ear, picking up speed instead of slowing down. Impressive agility. Zhang Yunxi's expression remained unchanged as he praised. Ndihe sensed trouble, but it was already too late. He suddenly noticed. Dozens of needles, thinner than cow hair, had surrounded him at some point. These were the Nirvana Unity needles bestowed by Liu Yao. With all sides sealed off, even the best agility was useless. Desperately screaming, Ndihe was pierced repeatedly by the flying needles. His body instantly withered and decayed, turning to ashes. Chapter 478, Come here for a moment. Too many major events have occurred in recent days, leaving the common folk with barely enough time to process one thing after another. The Great Shun dynasty, which existed in name only, finally officially kicked the bucket, and the shocking news of an impending female emperor burst onto the scene. While everyone was heatedly discussing this, word spread from north to south of the Yangtze River that Lord Liu had annihilated 20 forces within 3 days. From the mighty and powerful to the ordinary people, all were discussing the matter. Several female grandmasters rode spiritual sparrowhawks, each covering thousands of miles in a day, with a magical treasure in hand. The remaining 9 forces, so frightened were the sect leaders that they personally went to the imperial city to confess their sins, offering up most of their secret vaults in hopes of escaping fate. It was only because their crimes were not punishable by death that Lord Liu spared them. They should have obediently gone to the imperial city to attend the meeting from the start. Look at the background of Lord Liu, as long as you obey him, you'll be fine. This guy practices the way of domination, it is wise to be cautious in the future. While outsiders were amazed, little did they know that Liu Yao was planning to expand the range of his crackdown. The Wudang sect destroyed the Li Mountain sect with 0 casualties, and both mecha and battle armor played a significant role, with excellent effects. Consequently, Liu Yao ordered the Imperial Guards out on a sweep to eliminate all the misbehaving small and medium-sized martial factions on the ground. The bandits claiming to be kings of their own hills, the gangs charging protection money, and the business associations bullying the markets were all within the scope of this crackdown. These forces that long oppressed the lower-class citizens and couldn't stand scrutiny were brought down overnight by numerous humanoid tanks grounding them into the dirt. The markets were chaotic for a few days at first, but afterwards, there was a significant improvement in the public order. One couldn't say that you could leave things unattended on the road or keep doors unlatched at night, but at least there was a basic sense of order. The ordinary people felt the most direct benefit from this, with the absence of those sinister forces making life much lighter all at once. Although the coronation was set for the first day of January, the new government was already busy with preparations. In recent days, Li Pei had been incredibly busy, often not seen for several days at a time. Today she took the rare opportunity to rest for a while, but her worried expression suggested she was under great pressure. Governing a country was not easy, especially with the disastrous state the Shun dynasty had left behind, the people's livelihood in decline, wounds and scars everywhere, and an air of desolation everywhere you looked. Li Pei was on edge, fearing she might mess things up. Seeing her like this, Liu Yao decided to set aside his cultivation for the time being, and took her in his arms to gently advise and comfort her. Don't be too hard on yourself. As for how to restore people's livelihoods, the answer has been clear for thousands of years. It's simply a matter of relieving the common folk of harsh taxes, allowing them to recuperate, just as the Han dynasty's reign of Wen and Jing, then shift to heavily taxing the powerful elites, the merchant class, and foreign businesses. Don't fear their backlash. Those who dare to rebel should be beheaded immediately to eliminate the higher-ups. Li Pei nodded in agreement, and essentially, it boiled down to the taxing of the rich and the integration of scholars and farmers into the tax system, which troubled governments ancient and modern. For her own part, however, this would not be difficult to implement. When one had absolute military power, many things tended to simplify. Nevertheless, Li Pei had some concerns. Husband, this approach won't convince everyone, and there will certainly be those who turn to Yuan Kaisung or Lu Kunyi. Liu Yao laughed. Let all those who oppose us jump out openly and even gather together, isn't that just making it convenient for us to catch them all in one net? It was like gathering monsters in a game, making it easy to take them all out at once. Startled for a moment, Li Pei quickly caught on and laughed as well. That's a good point indeed. Taking a deep breath, she brightened up sharply and kissed Liu Yao passionately. It's so good to have you. Liu Yao encouraged her, take it easy, with my support behind you, you can go ahead and do what needs to be done. Li Pei stood up from Liu Yao's lap. Indeed, I shall go then. Liu Yao slapped the young woman's ample buttocks, creating a crisp smack. Go for it. I just can't wait to ride the emperor and command the regional princes. Li Pei looked at him with a mixture of feigned annoyance and delight, and ran off in a whirlwind of emotions. After seeing off the future empress, Liu Yao only had time to stretch his limbs before quickly moving on to the next task. Caring for the spiritual sparrowhawk. The spiritual sparrowhawks had consumed Duke-level blood cores, and their primary task now was to consolidate demon cores with the help of the efficacy and ascend to the innate level. At this moment, they tucked their heads under their wings, quietly closing their eyes to rest. Liu Yao would check on them 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, to ensure everything was fine. His mind force reached out, revealing a new organ covered in fascia and blood vessels within the chest cavity of the 3 sparrows. This organ, connected to all internal organs and parts of the body, pulsated rhythmically like a heart, brimming with vigorous vitality. This was the yet-to-be-formed demon core which, under normal circumstances, would take half a year to reach its current state. But with the enhancement of the Duke-level blood core, it had only taken 3 days. After a thorough inspection, Liu Yao felt that the little guys were progressing steadily and quickly, and it wouldn't take long for them to condense the demon core. He was very pleased in his heart and gently stroked the big head of a spiritual sparrowhawk. Having experienced many things together, Liu Yao no longer considered them as pets but as family. Moving quietly, Liu Yao then rushed to complete his daily cultivation routine. He squeezed time to read the newspaper and stay informed about global affairs, refine magical treasures with mind force, and more. His days were very fulfilling. If not for the automatic simultaneous cultivation of 3 divine skills, there wouldn't be enough time. The newspapers still had the same news, with the great powers licking their wounds after suffering heavy casualties, but the most interesting thing was the situation in Rakshasa. Due to crippling losses in a previous war on Great Shun's side, Rakshasa's economy collapsed, leading to an unprecedented nationwide rebellion from the suffering populace. The leader was a Night King, on par with a martial artist of the Golden Body realm from the Shun dynasty. Moreover, this Night King had actually manifested a psychic entity, divine manifestation. The Tsar's forces were retreating step by step, and now the capital was under siege, looking ready to fall at any moment. If Duke-level vampires can't win, aren't there primordial ancestors? Liu Yao was quite curious to learn about the combat capabilities of the top-tier demon entities, but primordial ancestor-level vampires hadn't been seen since the Inlushan rebellion in the Tang dynasty, so no one knew their current situation. As he was pondering this, he suddenly saw Liao Qi sneaking over. The girl leaned against the door frame, showing just her head, her cheeks flushed with a shy expression as she said, "Liu Yao, can you come here?" She then went back to her own room. Liu Yao, somewhat puzzled, followed and saw Liao Qi already lying on the bed, covered tightly with a quilt. Thinking the girl was in the mood, he didn't give it another thought and firmly closed the doors and windows. "You little glutton, if your sister finds out you are doing this with me in broad daylight, she'll scold you again. Sister is in seclusion to solidify her realm, she won't know." As Liao Qi spoke, she slowly lifted the quilt off of herself. Liu Yao turned around and immediately his eyes widened, his breathing became heavy. Black stockings. Has Otherworld actually invented such marvelous things? He saw the girl wearing smooth and delicate black silk stockings, which made her already straight and long legs even more sexy, and her slender and full feet were irresistible to touch and play with. Fully enjoying this enchanting tactile sensation, Liu Yao deeply chided himself. "I can't believe I've overlooked these, it's truly inexcusable." Seeing the gleam in her beloved's eyes, Liao Qi felt as sweet as if she had eaten honey. She gently lifted her legs, showing off their beauty. "Do you like it?" Like it very much." After a short while, the sound of fabric tearing and the girl's surprising shout could be heard from the room. "Ah, don't rip them. There aren't many pairs." "No worries, there can be as many of these things as you want." Chapter 479, Core Formation. Liao Qi's beautiful legs and dainty feet could pull off silk stockings of any color. In the days that followed, Liu Yao tore them up to his heart's content, until there was not a single pair left. But that didn't matter, for there were still plenty of amusing items in the box brought back from the joyful sect. Silver chain lingerie, strings of glass beads, all brought endless fun. The two clung to each other day and night in unbridled joy, until one day Liao Qi's shouts were so loud they shocked Liao Ya out of her seclusion. The sect leader reprimanded them both fiercely, and only then did they become somewhat restrained. Despite the scolding, Liao Qi was beaming inside. Her beloved being addicted to her body delighted her, even more than when she had made her breakthrough to the innate level. There was just one small puzzle. The beautiful pair of nipple covers had disappeared. After searching and finding nothing, Liao Qi scratched her head in confusion. Strange. My memory has been particularly good since the stabilization, I shouldn't have misremembered. Liu Yao had a great time these past few days, but a storm was brewing in the outside world. As he suggested, no sooner had Li Pei established the temporary government than he started taxing the wealthy families within the controlled area. These people only outwardly submitted due to Liu Yao's military might. Normally, everyone lived well, but the moment taxes were levied, they exploded in anger. As everyone knows, these rich and powerful families, no matter the era or nation, seldom pay taxes. They displayed their divine skills in opposition, first by using newspapers and other media to accuse the new dynasty of draconian tax collection and extreme exploitation, claiming it resulted in the people's suffering. Then they contacted high officials of the temporary government. Zhang Wenda, Li Zhongtang, Dong Fuxiang, as well as Li Pei's father, and even went to plead with the left minister, hoping he'd speak on their behalf. But to no avail. The tax Li Pei wanted to levy was not excessive and was utterly reasonable for a nation, yet for this group, it was as if their very lifelines were being threatened, leading to a fierce backlash. Li Pei showed no mercy and sent the Imperial Guard's mecha warriors to raid the homes of the two most flustered families, among them the portly prince he had encountered on his way home. It was then that Li Pei finally remembered who this person was. Prince Li Li. To crack down so harshly even on his own relative quieted the rest immediately. Though they ceased their public clamor, they were still restless in private. This was the moment for an assassination attempt to take place. But this was difficult. Assassinating an innate martial artist protected by a magical treasure and the shield of a flawless Grand Master, all under the watchful eye of the divine manifestation. If they had that capability, they would have become emperors themselves long ago. Thus, their gaze turned to Grand Master Yuan Kaisheng. Inside the state city, within the Governor-General of Liangjiang's headquarters, Yuan Kaisheng and Lu Kunyi sat together, going through the telegrams and letters, triumphant. Good. 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 The usually somber Yuan Kaisheng was uncharacteristically joyful, that demon Liu Yao has actually severed his own foundation. Lu Kunyi also wore a smile, this is excellent. Let the heroes of the world see this man's true face and turn to support us. Over half of the nation's wealthy families have indicated their support for us. Yuan Kaisheng waved several letters, full of vigor. These major families working together can disrupt the economic order under the demon Liu Yao's rule, even severing the food trade. With the northern regions invaded by the coalition forces of the great powers and the harvest failing, such actions would certainly lead to a severe famine. Lu Kunyi added, Ainhead will send a royal family member to visit and publicly express support for our cause. With such multifaceted efforts, I doubt Liu Yao would dare act recklessly. Yuan Kaisheng nodded slightly, thus, maintaining the status quo should be no issue. Once the great powers have cleared their agendas, they will surely be able to easily deal with Liu Yao. Our great undertaking is about to succeed. Lu Kunyi bowed with a smile, then I offer my early congratulations to Lord Yuan. Yuan Kaisheng responded with a laugh, likewise, I presume the royal member from Einheit will be coming especially for Governor Lu. With that, the two shared a knowing, conspiratorial smile. In their resistance against Liu Yao, they had joined forces, only to find after their alliance. Their goals were complementary. Yuan Kaisheng aspired to reach the pinnacle of human existence as the supreme ruler, whereas Lu Kunyi sought the very first embrace. The first embrace of a king-level vampire. Days passed, and as mid-December arrived, the coronation scheduled for January 1 drew closer and closer. Liu Yao patiently stayed at home cultivating and taking care of the spiritual sparrowhawk. Even when he earned the nickname Demon, he remained unflustered and dismissed it with a laugh. He had killed several golden body level experts and wiped out countless powers without earning this moniker. It was unexpected that it came about because Li Pei imposed taxes on the wealthy families, which made him known as Liu the Demon. Wealthy families had deep roots and controlled everything from top to bottom, smearing someone was all too easy for them. And this was not the only misdeed they had committed. One day, Li Pei came back fuming and complained. Recently, the prices in the market have skyrocketed, especially for food. Clearly, those wealthy families are making trouble, they truly deserve to die. Liu Yao was not surprised, instead he smiled and said, "It seems we've gathered enough monsters. It's time to start." Li Pei did not understand what he meant. "My lord, do you plan to make a move now? Are we going to storm their gates directly?" "Pretty much. We'll get rid of them all at once and give you a grand and beautiful coronation." Liu Yao pondered. "But in addition to killing, we need to take over all the prefecture governments in the south. To avoid being short-handed, let's call up the Imperial Guards and the Zhenhai fleet. I will immediately gather the troops." However, Li Pei furrowed her brow with some hesitation. Making such a grand display might cause concerns for Lord Zhou, he doesn't want to trigger a widespread civil war. "Don't worry," Liu Yao assured her with a confident expression, as if he had everything under control. "I've acquired a magical treasure, this will be the perfect time to use it." "Another magical treasure?" Li Pei was exceptionally calm, not at all surprised, as if she had grown accustomed to such things. "Just pack 2 or 3 days worth of provisions, we won't be traveling far." Liu Yao was in the midst of speaking when suddenly, 3 overwhelmingly powerful auras exploded in the backyard, followed by 3 loud, piercing cries. "It's the spiritual sparrowhawks. They've achieved core formation." The two hurried over to see what had happened. The Liao family sisters and Yu Yanmei were also running in that direction. Everyone arrived to see that the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks had awakened, seemingly unchanged. But a whirl of qi faintly enveloped their bodies. Everyone was familiar with it. It was innate true qi. After core formation, the spiritual sparrowhawks can now harness innate true qi. Liu Yao quickly approached for a closer examination and saw that each of the little creatures had an additional spherical organ in their chests, resembling a pearl, which was pulsating with true qi. The spiritual sparrowhawks affectionately nuzzled their master with the feathers of their necks and then, full of spiritual intelligence, peeked into Liu Yao's chest as if they were searching for something. Liu Yao had an epiphany and pulled out a jade bottle containing 10 complete immortal pills from his chest. "You want these to replenish your true qi, right?" The spiritual sparrowhawks nodded vigorously, and Liu Yao reassured them, "Eat up, there's plenty where that came from." With that, he distributed the elixirs and they consumed them. After eating, the aura around the spiritual sparrowhawks intensified and their bodies were enshrouded in flames made of invisible true qi. Yu Yanmei admired, "That's a skill only flawless warriors possess. Their physique is truly formidable." Liu Yao stroked the beautiful feathers of the spiritual sparrowhawks, feeling great. "This is a good omen. Let's finish our business as soon as possible. Pai Pei, go gather the people. I'm on my way." Li Pei stroked the spiritual sparrowhawks and then left together with Yu Yanmei, who seemed somewhat reluctant to part. Chapter 480, Lord Liu has a ferry boat. Just as Li Pei was gathering his forces, the capital of Frandy, Lido, was about to host a grand international conference. The meeting would be attended by representatives of 27 victorious nations, totaling more than 1,000 participants, named the Lido Peace Conference. Its purpose was to establish a post-war order and to redistribute the world once again. To vie for interests, it would be a marathon of debates. With nearly a month to go before the opening, delegates from various countries had already gathered. At this moment, the Supreme Council formed by the representatives of the great powers broached the issue of the Far East, inevitably mentioning Liu Yao. A strong individual manifesting mind force, followed by 3 nights long and 1 great night. Prime Minister Einheit Henry, with handsome features, frowned as he flipped through the documents. "Gentlemen, this upcoming figure is formidable and harbors strong hostility towards us. If we do not wish to lose the profits of the Far East, we must do something." Einheit had extensive interests in the Shun dynasty and was most concerned about them. Nonetheless, other nations seemed less interested. In their eyes, the ignorant countries of the faraway East were no more than minor characters, and there were more pressing issues to discuss. Only the representative from Izumo, the cabinet minister Makina, stood up and spoke with respect. "Our country is willing to contribute to the maintenance of peace and stability in the region." Seeing the conversation was veering back to this topic, the representative from Frandy, Clemento, spoke impatiently. "A barbarian from the east, easily annihilated. Let's return to the main point. It is our opinion that Jihad should be dismembered, to allow the provinces on the left bank of the Rhine River to become independent. A country born of injustice deserves to perish in disgrace. It was clear that Frandy wished to eliminate jihad and establish its own hegemony. Obviously, other nations could not sit by and watch jihad being excessively weakened, which soon reignited the argument. However, the great powers still issued a joint statement, strongly condemning Liu Yao's barbaric actions that disrupted peace, and expressing public support for Liu Kunyi and Yuan Kaisheng. Meanwhile, Izumo received a substantial low-interest loan, as well as military factory orders from several countries. Once the joint statement was issued, Li Pei personally handed it over to her husband. Liu Yao glanced at it and tossed it aside carelessly, as if completely unconcerned. With this thing out, that bunch must be overjoyed, right? Li Pei replied, they're hopping around more excitedly than ever. Quite a few noble families have openly sided with Yuan Kaisheng, some even from the local nobility of Jingjin have moved over there entirely. These days, the Western powers still had great influence, even their farts were considered fragrant. Countless people firmly believed. With the support of the powers, Yuan Kaisheng would inevitably be able to stand against Liu Yao. Moreover, compared to the despotic Liu Yao, who seized properties and annihilated families at the drop of a hat, Yuan Kaisheng, one of our own, was deemed more trustworthy. Li Pei asked, "My lord, what should we do?" Liu Yao took out a delicate model of a warship and said, "Are the men ready?" Li Pei nodded, "Ready, they can set out at any time." As the model warship glowed, Liu Yao smiled and said, "Then, let's go. The whole family will take action, and bring little Su'er along to broaden her horizons. I will make the arrangements at once." Li Pei was very excited, and after speaking, she hurried away. While she was preparing, Liu Yao used a walnut imbued with mind force to contact the new sect master of the joyful sect, Yun Qinglan. The other party was clearly very excited, speaking tremulously, "Lord Liu, you've called for me. May I know what you'd like to command? Help me check on someone, a woman in Grandmaster Yuan's household, surnamed Xiao. I will attend to it immediately." Thanks to the blessing of Duan's Hegi, several disciples of the joyful sect had entered Yuan Kaishen's household. In Yun Qinglan's view, making them seek out someone seemed like a simple task. She hurried to the joyful bodhisattva statue left by her master. This was the joyful sect's magic artifact, which not only gathered the power of faith but also had many wonderful uses. For example, when the sect master's cultivation was not enough, it could be used to contact disciples who were outside. Yun Qinglan directly contacted the highest-ranking one, hoping to complete the task as soon as possible and win the favor of Lord Liu. But reality dealt her a heavy blow. All she heard was the other party's voice, full of difficulties. "Sect Master, Qingluan really can't do it. The entire Yuan residence covers 1,000,000 acres, and just the registered women in the back residence number 3,000, not to mention those unregistered. There are at least 8,000 if not 10,000. I have never heard of this Miss Xiao, and she must be out of favor. To slowly search for her might take an unknown amount of time." Yun Qinglan was instantly speechless. These great grandmasters really knew how to live even better than the emperor. But it was Lord Lu's first time entrusting her with a task, and she absolutely could not mess it up. Her voice carried a serious tone as she said, "Qingluan, we started in the sect at the same time, and by seniority, I am your senior sister. I promise you here. If you handle this matter well, the sect will owe you a favor." What this meant was, as long as the task was completed, any request could be made. The disciple named Qingluan from the joyful sect took a deep breath, then with a burst of resolute determination, "Sect Master, I dare not aspire too high, but I'm willing to give it my all. Yuan Kaisheng is holding a banquet for some newly sworn and noble family heads, as well as a few consuls from the concessions. I might find an opportunity, please allow the other fellow disciples to temporarily follow my command. This sect approves. Go quickly and make sure there are results within a day." These two women of the joyful sect would stop at nothing to complete Liu Yao's mission. At the same time, Li Pei had already gathered her people, lining up in formation at the Yongding Gate. She meticulously selected 20,000 people from among the imperial guards, the Zhenhai fleet, and the civilian martial artists led by Fu Fangsheng. These people were exceptionally fierce, and all had demonstrated their loyalty through contributions in past battles. Such a large mobilization couldn't be hidden, and it was immediately perceived by those with ulterior motives, who then were filled with skepticism. Firstly, the number was too small. 20,000 was insufficient even for attacking a single state. Secondly, they brought only 3 days' rations. What could they accomplish with that? At this moment, these 20,000 warriors stood brimming with ambition, ready to follow Lord Liu to achieve a great endeavor. Actually, Liu Yao was only using them as an occupation force, they wouldn't be tasked with any difficult assaults. And on the city walls, more and more people came to watch, among them were Zhang Wenda, Li Zhongtang and other high-ranking officials of the transitional government. The north wind howled, sweeping up a few scraps of snowflakes. Everyone strained their necks, looking up at the sky, waiting for Lord Liu's arrival. Everyone expected Liu Yao to descend from the sky riding the spiritual sparrowhawk, but as they waited, they suddenly saw a strange object. Many thought they were seeing things and rubbed their eyes fiercely, but as the light overhead was blocked by a huge shape, growing dimmer, they realized they hadn't seen wrongly. At that moment, a massive floating warship appeared above the imperial city. 400 meters in length, 60 meters in width, its size was even larger than an aircraft carrier. The ship's body shimmered as if made of glaze, resembling the legendary ferry boat. Exclamations rose one after another, converging into a wave of astonished cries that shot straight into the heavens. Ferry, a ferry boat. Oh my god! Lord Liu has a ferry boat.